sa pamamagitan ng kanilang pagsasaliksik, pangangalaga at pangangasiwa ng kultura na nagpaunlad at nagpayaman ng mga partikular na uri ng sining o ng kulturang Pilipino sa pangkalahatan, at sa mga individual o pangkat sa pagkilala ng kanilang mga mahusay na gawain at mahahalagang ambag sa kultura at sining. Mula taong 1977, 87 individual at pangkat ang nakatanggap ng pagkilala dahil sa kanilang mahahalagang naiambag sa sayaw, musika, dula, panitikan, sining biswal, pelikula, pananaliksik at gawaing pangkultura, disenyo sa produksyon at disenyong pangmoda. Gawad CCP para sa sining, pinakamataas na parangal na ibinibigay ng Sentrong Pangkultura ng Pilipinas sa mga individual at pangkat na nag-ukol ng talento at panahon upang maisulong ang pag-unlad ng sining at kultura ng ating bayan.
Ang mga tagapagpadaloy ng programa sa gabing ito, narito sina Arman Ferrer at Sheila Valderrama Martinez.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat at maraming salamat sa inyong pagdalo sa gabi ng parangal para sa mga natatanging artista ng bayan. Ito ang Gawad CCP para sa sining. Magandang gabi, Sheila, at magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Magandang gabi, Arman, at magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Malaking karangalan po para sa amin ang maging bahagi ng programang ito. Ang Gawad CCP, isang pagbabalik.
Bilang panimula, pakinggan po natin ang pambungad na pananalita mula sa Pangulo at opisyal na tagapamahala ng tanggapan ng Direktor Pansining ng Sentrong Pangkultura ng Pilipinas, Ginang Maria Margarita Moran Floriento.
Sa ating mga ginagalang ng papansang alagad ng sining na kasama natin ngayon, sa ating mga bagong awardee ng Gawad CCP para sa sining at kanilang kinatawan. Rafael Catalino Nonoy Froilan para sa sayaw, Raul Sunico para sa musika, Felix Nonon Padilla para sa teatro, Luis Juni para sa sining visual, Luwalhati Bautista para sa panitikan, Clodoaldo Doy del Mundo Jr. para sa pelikula at sining broadcast, Cristina Turalba para sa arkitektura, Kenneth Coponpue para sa disenyo at mga kaugnay na sining, Integrated Performing Arts Guild para sa pagpapayabong ng kultura ng rehiyon, Nestor Horfilia para sa gawaing pangkultura at pananaliksik, Liwayway Magazine para sa pagpapangunlad ng kultura sa Pilipinas, Antonio Tony Fabella para sa sayaw, posthumous na Gawad, Alice Guillermo para sa pananaliksik pangkultura, posthumous na Gawad, Danny L. Donor bilang tanging parangal, mga miyembro ng CCP Board of Trustees, mga miyembro ng NCCA Board of Commissioners, mga opisyal at empleyado ng NCCA at CCP, mga cultural worker at miyembro ng mga artistic community, mga panauhin at sa inyong lahat, magandang hapon. Marami ang Pilipinong artista na mahusay sa kanilang mga larangan. Ngunit may mga natatanging tao na nag-alay ng kanilang buhay at gumawa ng mahalagang kontribusyon sa pag-unlad ng sining ng Pilipinas. Dahil dito, ang tagumpay ng mga awardee ng Gawad CCP para sa sining ay ating ipinagdiriwang ngayon hapon. Ang Gawad CCP para sa sining ay ibinibigay kada 3 taon sa mga artista o grupo ng mga artista na patuloy na lumilikha ng mga natatanging gawa at nagpapayaman sa kanilang anyo ng sining. Ito ay binibigay din sa mga cultural workers na sa pamamagitan ng kanilang mga ambag sa pag-aral, curatorship o administrasyon ay nakatulong sa sining ng ating bayan. Ang ating parangal ay ibinibigay sa mga individual or organization upang kilalanin ang kanilang kontribusyon sa pagpapaunlad ng sining sa bansa. Saludo rin ako sa Screening and Selection Committee at sa mga panelista sa prinsipyo at integridad nila sa pagpili ng ating Gawad CCP para sa sining awardees. Sa wakas, narito tayo upang magbigay pugay sa 14 na mahuhusay na artista, grupo at institusyon. Si Rafael Catalino Nonoy Froilan bilang isa sa mga pinakamahusay at pinakamabunga sa choreographer at mananayaw. Si Raul Sunico bilang isang bukod-tanging Pilipinong pianista, kompositor at guro. Si Felix Nonon Padilla Jr., isa sa mga veteranong direktor sa Teatrong Pilipino. Si Luis Juni na gumamit ng mga katutubong materyales sa paglikha ng mga obrang sining visual. Si Luwalhati Bautista bilang isa sa mga mahusay na nobelista sa kasaysayan ng kontemporanyong panitikan ng Pilipinas. Si Claudio Doy del Mundo Jr. bilang isa sa mga pinakamahusay na scriptwriter ng mga klasikong hiyas ng pelikulang Pilipino. Si Cristina Turalba bilang alagad ng konserbasyon ng pamana at napakahusay na arkitekto. Si Kenneth Goponpue bilang taga-disenyo sa industrial arts na sikat sa buong mundo dahil sa kanyang mga obrang mula sa mga likas na hibla at materyales. Ang Integrated Performing Arts Guild bilang teatro na una at aktibo sa paggamit ng mga natatanging galaw sa Mindanao. Si Nestor Horfilia, na isang matatag na puwersa sa gawaing pangkultura sa mga rehiyon. Ang Liwayway Magazine, na 100 taon nagbabahagi ng importanteng akda sa mga kwentista at makata, gayon din ng mga pambansang alagad ng sining. Si Tony Fabella, na naging sikat hindi lamang sa pagsasayaw, kundi sa larangan din ng koreografiya. Si Alice Guillermo bilang mahalagang kritiko sa larangan ng pagsusuri at kasaysayan ng sining. At ang panghuli ay si Danilo Dani Dolor, isang masigasig na patron ng kultura at sining ng ating bansa. Muli, magandang hapon sa inyong lahat and enjoy the program. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Ginang Maria Margarita Moran Florendo.
Sa bahaging ito ng programa, tayo nang tumuloy sa pagkakaloob ng parangal para sa unang pangkat ng mga natatanging artista ng Pilipinas.
Ang Gawad CCP para sa sining ay ipinagkakaloob tuwing 3 taon para sa mga alagad ng sining, individual man o pangkat ng mga manlilikha na patuloy na gumagawa ng kanilang mga obra at nagtataguyod ng sining at kultura ng bansa.
Iginagawad din ang pagkilalang ito sa mga manggagawang pangkultura na tumutulong sa paglinang ng sining at kultura sa bansa sa pamamagitan ng kanilang gawain sa administrasyon o pangangasiwa at pananaliksik. Mga kaibigan, ipinakikilala ang unang pangkat ng 2020 Gawad CCP para sa sining.
Bukod tangi ang nilikhang mga akda ni Luwalhati Bautista bilang pangunahing manunulat ng ating panahon. Nagsimula siyang kumatha sa edad na 16, pero ang una niyang mahalagang akda ay naisulat noong 1980 nang siya ay 35 na. Ang Gapo at Isang Puting Pilipino sa Mundo ng mga Amerikanong Kulay Brown ay tungkol sa Olongapo, na kilala bilang teritoryo ng puwersang militar at hukbong pandagat ng Amerika. Sa kanyang panulat ay sinisira ni Bautista ang pagkahumaling ng mga Pilipino sa American Dream, habang isinasalaysay niya kung paanong ang mga Pilipino ay pinarurusahan at pinagsasamantalahan ng kanilang sariling bayan.
Meron kasi kami pinsan doon na nagtatrabaho sa base militar. Isinama niya kami nung gabi sa iba't ibang mga bar at marami akong nakita doon. Merong mga bar, may club na hindi in-entertain ang mga Pilipino. Kahit kami, marami kaming order, pero doon sa club na yon, mas nilalapitan nila yung mga puti. Ayun, nakita ko yung prejudice, nakita ko yung hindi pagkakasundo ng iba't ibang kulay sa Olongapo. Yun, naisipan kong gawing nobela ang Gapo.
Di nangiming isiwalat ni Bautista ang nangyayaring paghuli, pagtorture at pagsalvage sa mga taong lumaban sa diktadura sa panahon ng batas militar, nang ang karamihan ng mga manunulat ay umiwas sa mga paksang politikal dahil sa takot sa pandarahas ng militar. Ito ang naipamalas niya sa dekada 70. Ginawaran ito ng Grand Prize sa Don Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for Literature noong 1983. Samantala, ang kanyang nobelang Desaparecidos ay nagpapakita ng mga pansariling paninindigan ng mga aktivistang tauhan at kung paano nila hinarap ang matinding takot sa torture, pagtataksil at kawalan sa kanilang sariling hanay.
Ang karanasan ng mga aktivistang pinuli, tinorture, pinatay, nawala, yan ang bumuo ng dekada 70. Excited ako, syempre, sa dekada 70 kasi isang bagay, masusulat ko ang isang nobela na wala pang sumusulat ng panahon yon. At higit sa lahat, yon ang aking personal na paghihimagsik, ang aking personal na paglaban sa mga patakarang pinag-iiral pa ng gobyerno hanggang sa mga panahon yun.
Ang bulaklak sa City Jail ni Bautista ay bunga ng kanyang paglubog bilang isang participant observer sa piitan. Ang screenplay at nobela ay tungkol sa mga presong dumanas ng matitinding karahasan at hirap sa lipunang mabangis at mapang-api. Kahit na halos walang pag-asa, magtatagumpay pa rin ang kanilang pagkatao sa paglipas ng panahon.
Bulaklak sa City Jail.
Yung mga babaeng bilanggo na yan, pinagmamalaki ko pa yan kay Mang Basyong, kay Herbacio Santiago na editor noon ng Liwayway. Kasi masyadong conservative yung matandang yan. Kinuwento ko sa kanya yung mga kaso ng mga babae na sabi ko, hangang-hanga ako Kasi kayang-kaya pala nila, kayang-kaya din pala ng babae na gawin yung sa akala mo ay lalaki lang ang pwedeng gumawa. Ang mga kaso niyan, may murder, may kidnapping, may arson. Di ba? Nakakahanga naman talaga.
Ang mga kwento at nobela ni Bautista ay naglahad ng diskriminasyon at opresyon na dinaranas ng kababaihan sa ilalim ng isang sistemang patriarkal. Ganito ang tinalakay sa Bata-Bata, Paano Ka Ginawa, na ang pangunahing karakter ay isang solo parent. Ang nobela ay grand prize winner sa Don Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for Literature noong 1984. Isinapelikula rin ng Star Cinema ang nobela noong 1998 at nagtamo para kay Bautista ng Best Screenplay sa Gawad Urian at sa Young Critics Circle Awards noong 1999.
Ikaw din naman na ginagawa mo ang gusto mo. Eh ba't kami hindi pwede? Wala akong ginagawang masama! Akala mo lang wala! Pero meron!
Ang Bata-Bata, sinulat ko yan, 1984. Matatandaan na iba pa ang sitwasyon noon kaysa sa sitwasyon ngayon. Noon, masyado pang nililimita ang babae. Masyadong pinasusunod sa maraming patakaran. Hindi ka po pwedeng pumirma ng kontrata nang walang consent ang asawa mo. Galit na galit ako dun kasi ang aking mga sinusulat ay intellectual property ko. Ano ang pakialam ng asawa ko doon? Akin yun sarili ko yun
Karamihan sa mga nilikhang nobela ni Bautista ay madaling gawing pelikula at ang mga isinulat niya para sa telebisyon at pelikula ay maaaring isalin sa prosa. Noong 2019, inilabas niya ang Bayan Ko, isang koleksyon ng mahahabang maikling kwento o mga novela na halaw sa kanyang mga teleplay. Bawat akda niya ay makatotohanan dahil halaw ito sa personal na karanasan. Pinagtibay ng ganitong karanasan ang kanyang paniniwala na ang manunulat ay dapat magtanong at pumunas sa pagmamalabis ng mga makapangyarihan.
Pagka may gusto akong gawin, hindi ko na yan ipaghihintay. Baka bago dumating yung future na iniisip mo, hindi ka na excited. Mahalaga yung excited ka sa isang project. Ma-retain mo yung excitement na yon para magawa mo ng mahusay. Isa pa, matanda na ako. Yung 3 anak ko, naging 3 na nga yan May kanya-kanya ng pamilya, mga dalaga at binata na ang mga apo ko. Hindi mo alam kung gaano kaiksi na lang ang future ko. Hindi mo alam kung andyan ka pa pagdating ng future.
Para sa kanyang mahuhusay na obra na nagtuturo sa atin na igalang at ipaglaban ang karapatan ng mga mahihina, ng mga walang tinig at mga kinalimutan hanggat walang pagkakapantay-pantay sa lipunan.
Ipinagkakaloob ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa panitikan kay Binibining Luwalhati Bautista na kinakatawan ni Ginoong Dante Bautista. Para ipagkaloob ang parangal para sa unang pangkat ng 2020 Gawad CCP para sa Sining Awardees, narito si Ginang Maria Margarita Moran Floirendo.
Isang maganda kahit maulang hapon sa lahat. Unang-una, binabati ko po lahat ng awardees. Unfortunately, my sister was unable to make it today, kaya I'm accepting the award on her behalf. And it was really such a great privilege for me to be a part of this special event. Sisimplihan ko lang naman ang gustong ipahatid ng kapatid ko, si Luwalhati. Unang-una, maraming salamat uli sa karagdagang karangalan para sa kanya. Ikalawa, Maraming salamat sa mga organizers, sa mga judges, sa committee, at sa lahat ng mga taong may kinalaman sa parangal na ito. At ikatlo, at ang pinakamahalaga sa lahat, maraming salamat sa kanyang tagahanga na hanggang ngayon ay patuloy pa ring humahanga sa kanyang akda at naniniwala sa kanyang kapasidad. Para sa aking kapatid, kay Walhati Bautista, maraming salamat po. More power to the CCP, Gawad.
Si Kenneth Cobonpue, isang industrial designer na lumikha ng mga kahanga-hangang disenyo ng muebles, transportasyon, arkitektura at pampublikong pasilidad. Naging impluwensya at inspirasyon niya ang mismong lugar kung saan siya ipinanganak at lumaki.
I was born and raised in Cebu before I went to study abroad. Cebu will always be my home and refuge. Its beaches, mountains, and people inspire me, and she is home to the craftsmen who turn my ideas into reality every day.
Mula 1987 hanggang 1996 ay nagtungo siya sa Amerika at Europa upang mag-aral at kumuha ng karanasan sa industrial design at marketing.
I learned different things from my studies in Europe and America. I studied in New York, and in many ways, it's a microcosm of the whole world. You have people from different countries speaking different languages, living, working, and breathing in this one dense space. It's a cultural aquarium that makes art and design in all its iterations exciting and unique. In America, I learned to appreciate romantic classicism just because Americans love everything that's old and has history. On the other hand, I learned to love modernism in Europe because they love to move away from their classical past. A good thing though about living abroad is to know how the rest of the world lives so you can design for a global market. But the most valuable lesson for me was to know how unique, valuable, and beautiful our culture truly is. This was my motivation to design modern objects with a Filipino identity for the world.
Bumalik siya sa Cebu noong 1997 upang pamahalaan ang furniture business ng pamilya. Ito ang naging pagkakataon upang makagawa siya ng mga kakaibang muebles na maituturing na artwork.
I want to combine the beauty of all our traditional handmaking crafts and skills like weaving, carving, and painting with modern production techniques because it makes for an exciting recipe in design. And also because it makes the Filipino globally competitive.
Modernista ang kanyang mga disenyo, pero gumagamit ng mga katutubong materyales, gaya ng yantok, kawayan, Philippine mahogany, abaka, at iba pang mga hibla.
I try to push the boundaries of our craft and apply them to modern materials like carbon fiber or Kevlar. Our skills are really applicable to anything. Our traditional skills are dying, and our craftsmen are aging. The children of these artisans don't want to work with their hands anymore. It is up to this generation of designers and artists to give the next generation of craftsmen a means of living and a source of pride and dignity. Using Filipino skills, reinventing them, and making them relevant in design, give our products a unique identity that sets them apart from others.
Ang kanyang mga likha ay naging tanyag at in demand sa loob at labas ng bansa. Ang mga ito ay matatagpuan sa mga hotel at resort sa Hawaii, Caribbean, Puerto Vallarta, Cancun, Las Vegas, Miami, Sydney, Melbourne, Fiji, at mga bansang Greece, Portugal, Spain, at Maldives.
A simple dining chair is the most difficult in design because there are so many chairs out there and you have to stay within a certain price point. And no one buys one chair around a dining table, so you have to keep that in mind. I also don't want to make things just to sell. I make it a point to ask myself if the world really needs another chair. And why do I have to give birth to another one if it looks just like the rest? And just like in life, the simplest things like a chair are the most difficult to appreciate and not take for granted, but the most beautiful to behold when done well. I really don't do anything for film or TV. Producers and set designers pick up my pieces because they have character and are very photogenic. And I only learned about it after the fact or when someone messages me that they see it on their screen. The only exception was Ocean's 13 when the producers wanted to use only one chair, but then they saw the catalog. They gave us a call and told us they'll get everything. And maybe the Maroon 5 music video, Never Gonna Leave This Bed, when we had to bring the voyage bed to the Santa Monica Boardwalk.
Tinanghal siyang Asia Designer of the Year ng Maison et Objet noong 2014. Ang disenyo niyang Phoenix ay ang unang kotseng kawayan sa mundo.
The premise and rationale behind the Phoenix project was bigger than what I ever dreamed of. The idea of an automotive chassis made of sustainable materials, woven by hand, became the subject of studies by universities and design studios abroad. Cars are the #1 environmental polluters, not only during their life, but even after their use as they rot in junkyards and scrapyards. The Phoenix used a lightweight chassis of carbon fiber, bamboo, and steel that biodegrades naturally over time and was easily replaceable because it was made by hand. Very limited energy was used to produce the piece, and customization was possible.
Noong 2017, katuwang ang arkitektong si Buck Sia ay ginawa niya ang konsepto at direksyon ng disenyo para sa Cor Jesu Oratory.
It was challenging enough to make something unique and original in the age of globalization. The pandemic made it even more difficult. Not only because it's difficult for designers and craftsmen to come together physically, but also because people now concentrate on the simpler and essential things in life, making them more selective in what to have and own. And as we spend more time at home, I welcome this as a challenge to design objects that will be treasured for generations and that we can find solace and comfort in.
Sa pamamagitan ng kanyang mga obra, nailagay ni Cobonpue ang kanyang sarili at ang disenyong Pilipino sa mapa ng mundo.
We should never forget where we came from and who we are. And I believe that we all have it within us to share to the world who we are. The materials I use, the skills employed to build my designs, the inspiration from where everything comes from. These are concrete expressions of what it means to be a Filipino in the world today.
Para sa kanyang pagiging huwaran bilang isang mahusay na industrial designer, na humihikayat sa mga susunod na designer na pahalagahan ang yaman ng lahi at humango ng inspirasyon mula sa pagiging Pilipino.
Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Kenneth Cobonpue ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa disenyong pangkasangkapan.
Thank you very much to the Cultural Center of the Philippines for giving me this very meaningful award. I think it's a first in the field of industrial design. What I am today, I owe everything to my mother, who joins us in the audience from Cebu. Every night as a child, she would read me bedtime stories about castles, about magical forests, and people who live on boats. Today, as you can see from the video, they have become furniture, chairs, tables that people from all over the world bring into their homes. The objects that we make and design have the power to communicate and touch people's lives. And design is an integral part of society, not only because it employs millions of Filipinos, but because it ensures that our rich tradition of craft and artistry continues. I hope that everyone here continue to inspire and promote the beauty of our culture to the world. Thank you very much.
Maraming matututunan, no, dun sa mga pelikula nung nakaraan. At tapos, kailangan isipin ng mga bagong filmmaker, ano ngayon ang gagawin ko? Ano ngayon yung gagawin kong pelikula? Kaya kailangan din, sa tingin ko, maging malaman nila kung ano yung nangyayari sa paligid. No? Ano yung nangyayari sa paligid?
Si Clodoaldo Doy del Mundo Jr. ay isang mahusay na manunulat, direktor, scholar at profesor. Ipinanganak siya noong 1948 sa Maynila. Ang kanyang ama, na si Clodoaldo del Mundo Sr., ay nagsusulat noon sa Liwayway magazine at sa iba pang comics. Lumaki si Del Mundo sa gitna ng panitikan at popular media.
Ang tatay sumulat ng mga stories, tsaka illustrated novels na ginawang pelikula ng mga major studios ng panahon na yon, Sampaguita, LVN, Premiere. Kaya meron kaming season pass, no, dun sa mga pelikulang Tagalog. Kaya madalas kaming manood ng sine ng mga kapatid ko. Kaya ganun yung kinalakhan ko, no. Nagbabasa at nanonood ng pelikula, kaya yon ang naka-impluwensya sa akin.
Nagtapos si Del Mundo ng Bachiller sa Humanidades sa Pamantasang Ateneo de Manila. Nang matapos niya ang kanyang Fulbright Scholarship sa University of Kansas noong 1974 at makabalik sa Pilipinas, nagsimula ang malikhaing kolaborasyon nila ni Mike De Leon. Ipinabasa ni De Leon kay Lino Broca ang adapsyon para sa pelikula ni Del Mundo ng Sa Mga Kuko ng Liwanag, isang nobela ni Edgardo Reyes.
Yung panahon na yon, 1974, pinalabas yung Tinimbang Ka Ngunit Kulang ni Lino Broca. It was a critical and box office success. No? Kaya naisip ni Mike magtayo ng sarili niyang grupo at gumawa ng pelikula. Nabasa niya yung adaptation ko sa Mga Kuko ng Liwanag, tapos pinabasa niya kay Lino, nagustuhan naman ni Lino, at yun, na ginawang pelikula noong 1974-1975.
Ang kolaborasyon ni Del Mundo at De Leon ay nagbunga ng mga klasikong akda na humahamon sa karaniwan at nakagawian, gaya ng pelikulang Itim noong 1976. Nanalo ito ng pinakamahusay na pelikula sa Asian Film Festival. Nakagawa si Del Mundo ng mga akda na may lalim at tapang, nagsasatinig ng hinaing na mga binubusalan ang bibig. Tulad ng Kisap Mata noong 1981 na ginawaran ng Metro Manila Film Festival ng pinakamahusay na dulang pampelikula at kwento. Sumunod ang Batch 81 noong 1982 na naging tampok sa Cannes Film Festival Directors Fortnight Showcase. Nagtamo rin ito ng pinakamahusay na dulang pampelikula sa Gawad Urian at Film Academy of the Philippines para kay Del Mundo, kasama sina De Leon at Raquel Villavicencio.
Tapos si Mike De Leon naman, wala naman talaga sa sentro ng mainstream. Kuminsan siya mismo ang financier, o kung sa ibang kumpanya naman, ginagawa ng kumpanya yon para makagawa ng kakaibang pelikula, yung ganon. Kaya maswerte na rin ako dahil doon, no? Yung mga nakasama ako sa mga proyekto na talagang may ambisyon na gumawa ng kakaibang pelikula.
Bituin? Star?
Pepot Superstar. Noong 2005, ang pelikula ni Del Mundo na Pepot Artista ay nagwagi bilang pinakamahusay na pelikula sa kauna-unahang Cinemalaya Philippine Independent Film Festival.
Ngayon, nagkaroon ako ng pagkakataon nung ginawa yung Cinemalaya noong 2005. Ni-revive ko yung Pepot Artista na ginawa ko noong 1969-1970.
Gusto mo maging artista?
Opo.
Maski maliit yung budget, pinagkasya yung budget, pero libre kang gawin or libre akong gawin yung gusto kong gawin dun sa yung pelikulang yun. Kaya maganda yung karanasan.
Kahanga-hanga ang pag-aaral at panulat ni Del Mundo sa kasaysayan ng pelikulang Filipino, sa papel ng telebisyon na nagsisilbing paraan para makatakas ang manonood sa realidad, at sa iba pang mga aralin tungkol sa popular na media. Noong 2008, iginawad kay Del Mundo ng De La Salle University ang Professor Emeritus, ang pinakamataas na karangalang ipinagkakaloob sa mga profesor na magre-retiro.
Kaya yung exposure din siguro sa academe, yung mga panonood ng pelikula, yung paggawa ng mga kritisismo, doon siguro na nahasa o mas nagkaroon ako ng interest, no? Tapos yun nga hindi nga ako pumasok sa sentro ng mainstream, kaya kailangan meron akong pagkakitaan din, no? Yung trabaho. Kaya ang pinakagusto ko ng trabaho yun sa eskwela, kaya napunta ako doon sa pagtuturo.
Itinataguyod ni Del Mundo ang kahalagahan ng pambansang arkibo ng mga pelikula para pangalagaan ang pampelikulang pamana na nagpapakita ng ating diwa bilang isang bansa.
Seryosohin natin yung ginagawa ng mga filmmaker, yung ginagawa ng mga writers, importante yun eh. Kung walang mag-aaral ng mga trabaho nila, yung mga akda nila, makakalimutan na lang natin, no? yung mga obrang ito, no? Kaya mahalaga yung pag-aaral, no? At saka yung pagsulat.
Para sa mga natatanging obra niya sa pelikula, sa mga panulat tungkol sa pelikula at broadcast media na nakaambag sa pag-unlad at pagpapahalaga sa mga sining ng pelikula at broadcast sa Pilipinas at humuhulma sa ating pagkaunawa sa ating sarili bilang isang bayan.
Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Clodoaldo Doy A. Del Mundo Jr. ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa pelikula at sining broadcast.
hihiramin ko ang isang ideya mula sa pelikulang Kana the Dreamweaver ni Ida Anita Del Mundo. Hindi naman siguro magagalit yung si Ida sa paggamit ko ng kanyang ideya. Nariyan ang disenyo kahit di mo nakikita. Ang paalaala ni Bellang Fay, ang Dreamweaver kay Kana, ang kanyang apo na inaasahan niyang maging tagahabi ng mga pangarap. Di ito maunawaan ni Kana dahil paano mo nga makikita ang disenyo sa pinagbuhol-buhol na abaka. Nariyan ang disenyo kahit di mo nakikita. Marahil gayon din ang buhay. Maraming pangyayari sa ating buhay na inaakala nating mga aksidente. Animoy mga pangyayaring nagkabuhol-buhol, nagkataon lamang, at di natin mawari ang kahulugan, ang disenyo. Sa aking pagmumuni-muni, madalas itong gawin ng mga kaedad ko. Pumapasok sa alaala ang nakaraan, ang mga pangyayaring mukhang nagkataon lamang. Ngunit dahil sa layo ng panahon, nakamamanghang makita ang disenyo. Hindi pala aksidente ang panonood namin ng tatay at ng aking mga kapatid ng pelikula sa Avenida Rizal tuwing linggo. Hindi pala aksidente na mabasa ko ang nobelang Sa Mga Kuko ng Liwanag sa klase ni Dr. Bien Lumbera. Hindi pala aksidente na makatagpo ko at makilala si Mike De Leon sa eskwela. Kulang ang oras kung iisa-isahin ko ang mga mistulang aksidente sa aking buhay na kaipalay disenyo ng isang Fudalu, ang Diyos na pinagmumulan ng hinahabing pangarap. Napagtanto ko rin na di lamang ako ang bumubuo ng tapestry ng aking buhay. Maraming nilalang ang tumulong upang mabuo ito. Ang aking mga guro, mula kindergarten hanggang graduate school, na nag-ambag sa paghubog ng aking kaalaman at paninindigan. Ang aking mga kapwa-guro sa De La Salle University na nagpakita ng gilas sa pagtuturo at sa kani-kanilang sining. Ang aking mga kapwa-filmmaker na nangarap ng maipagmamalaking pelikulang Pilipino. At ang aking pamilya at mga kamag-anak, ang tatay na ibinahagi sa amin ang kahalagahan di lamang ng literatura, kundi lalong-lalo na ng popular media. Ang nanay na nagturo sa amin ng kabuluhan ng tahanan, at ang aking mga kapatid na nagpakita ng paniniwala at suporta sa aking gawain. At di matatawaran ang kahalagahan ng aking kabiyak, si Drina Quito. Gayon din ang aming anak, si Ida Anita, na laging nagsisilbing inspirasyon mula nang ipanganak siya. Madalas na nakatanaw sa nakaraan ang mga kaedad ko. Ngunit di ito nangangahulugang di kami tumatanaw sa hinaharap. Hindi pa lubusang tapos ang hinahabing tapestry. May natitira pang abaka. Kung ano ang maidaragdag nito sa disenyo ay di ko pa mawari. Ngunit naniniwala akong nariyan ang disenyo kahit di mo nakikita. Maraming salamat po.
Sa larangan ng sayaw sa Pilipinas ay kinikilala si Antonio L. Fabella. Nagsimula siya sa folk dance bilang isang tampok na miyembro ng Bayanihan Dance Company sa ilalim ni na Lucrecia Reyes Urtula at Libertad V. Fajardo.
Chemical engineer siya, mapua. Kung mathematical ka kasi, very quantifiable ka. And she is very musical also. Tagapagsanghan siya. Actually, hindi naman malayo yun, no? Pero at least, ang perspective niya malawak.
Nag-aral siya ng modern dance at classical ballet sa ilalim ng maraming eksperto.
Kasi kung hindi ka naman musical, mas ano ka, galing sa technique, ballet or whatever, lalo na sa jazz, hindi ka talaga aasenso as a dancer. That all came together for him na yung kanyang college work. Kasi nang sumayaw na siya, graduate na siya noon eh. Sa engineering, gaya ako, graduate na rin ako nang sumayaw ako sa Maynila.
Umangat siya bilang pangunahing mananayaw sa mahahalagang obra tulad ng Mir Inisa, Itim Asu at Tales of the Manuvu.
The ballet that opened CCP was Merenisa for Dance at the Philippines. And so he was the other guy. So there are two rival men for one woman, si Merenisa. So he's one of the other guy na nga, he died already, si Udon Sabare. 3-act ballet yun. He's very sure. Most small dancers are really stronger than, kasi masyado kang centered. The taller one, kuminsan they look awkward because their center is malayo sa paa, malayo sa torso. So, solar plexus mo pa rin yun eh. So, he's very centered as a dancer.
Si Fabella ay nakilala rin sa husay ng kanyang mga koreografiya. Matalas niyang nagamit ang mga tradisyonal, kanluranin at popular na uri ng sayaw. Mula noong 1970s hanggang sa unang dekada ng 2000, nakalikha siya ng pambihirang mga obra.
Sa kabayo tekniko no nakalesan nyo.
Ang kanyang mga koreografiya ay patuloy na sinasayaw ng mga profesional at amateur na grupo ng sayaw sa buong Pilipinas.
Kay ganda ng ating musika, kay ganda ng ating musika.
Ay nako, he's very dynamic kasi he's a very dynamic dancer. He's one of the most musical choreographers that we ever had. Eddie's choreographer but hindi gaya ng kay Tony. Talagang parang nakuha niya yung internalize niya yung rhythm.
Ang pinakapopular na marahil ay ang tambol at padyak. Sa saliw ng musika ng pinikpikan na unang sinayaw ng Ballet Philippines.
Yung kanyang background sa folk dance, nagamit niya talaga.
Patuloy niyang ginamit ang katha ng mga Pilipinong musikero sa 5 dipa.
Well, 5 dipa, of course, Ryan Kayabia, no? And he did it for Dance of the Philippines. It's really one of the pieces that lasted so long because Philippine Dance Company also danced that. And I think we did that always also sa Rizal Park, Dance of the Philippines, because we did 13 years of Rizal Park performances in Dance of the Philippines. Kung sinong tao maka-identify, you don't have to be a ballet dancer to identify with it.
Ilan pa sa mga koreografiya niya ay ang Mantones de Manila, Beautiful Girls, at Kundi Man Noon at Ngayon. Para sa Ballet Manila, nilikha niya ang Dancing to Czerny. Dalagang Pilipina. At ang mahiwagang biolin na bahagi ng tatlong kwento ni Lola Basyang. Siya ay nirerespeto bilang guro na humubog sa maraming mananayang. Ito ay sa pamamagitan ng CCP Dance Workshop, Fabella Elehar Dance Studio at iba pang paaralan ng sayaw sa Metro Manila.
He's very, very thorough and he's very strict. Ang maganda nung sa panahon namin, may summer workshops. So, we did choreograph for the summer workshops and we have a big showcase. So, doon kami nag-umpisa. Kami lahat, si Tony Pabs, ako, si Luis Laya.
Sa pananaw ni Fabella, ang sining ng sayaw ay nararapat ding iparating sa mga mahihirap na miyembro ng lipunan.
Ang nawala sa kanila is the, I don't know, we call it will. Will to dream, nawala na sa kanila yun eh. Pag pinasayaw mo sila, ibang feeling. I see, they do it with such passion. Parang alam nila na pag gumaling kami rito, that's our way out.
At that time, nobody was really doing anything like that. So it was, and then they were really sponsored by Quezon City.
Kasama sina Eddie Elehar at Luther Perez, itinatag nila ang Quezon City Performing Arts Development Foundation Incorporated at ang Manila Dance Center.
Sa bayan ng Sibol ang bawat pasada, huminga ng malalim.
Naipalaganap ang dance training para sa mahihirap na kabataan na may kakayahan sa sining ng sayaw.
Heto na! Heto na! Heto na!
Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Antonio Fabella ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa sayaw. Ang posthumous award na ito ay tatanggapin ng kanyang kinatawan na si Binibining Mika Fabella.
Good evening to everybody. I'm Mika Fabella. I am the niece of Tony Fabella, or Tony Fabs, as he was affectionately known. It is with the highest of honor that I receive the Gawad CCP Para sa Sining Award on behalf of Tony Fabella. Tito Tony, to me, and to most of us actually, would have been very proud of this award. His life has always been about dance. He was initially a chemical engineer by profession, but he never found fulfillment nor accomplishment in that field. His life and dance began with the Bayanihan Dance Company, and then to the CCP Dance Company, and the Fabella Elehar Dance Studio, and then the Manila Metropolis Ballet. He found joy in the world of dance, and his happiest place was always in the dance studio, whether in sweaty clothes, rehearsing, or in t-shirt teaching or choreographing. You would always find him teaching whether to college students or to street children, and he found his fulfillment and great joy in dance and in dancing, and the accomplishment in sharing it with people and changing lives through the power of dance. It has long been said that Tito Tony could make anybody dance, even if you called yourself not a dancer. His life was dance, and dance was his life. Tito Tony has already received various awards and citations, but we believe that this award would be the one he would cherish the most. I remember visiting my Tito Tony the day before he passed away. He couldn't talk that much, so I did most of the talking. He told me thank you for remembering me. And I think he was so scared that he would be forgotten. So now I echo to all of you his last words to me. Thank you very much for remembering him. On behalf of the family of Tony Fabella, we thank the board members and the committee of the Cultural Center of the Philippines for honoring my Tita Tony, our Tita Tony Fabella, with this award. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.
Si Rafael Catalino Froilan, kilala bilang si Nonoy Froilan sa larangan ng sayaw, ay tubong Kalbiga, Samar. 17 years old siya nang pumasok sa University of the East sa Maynila at naging miyembro ng UE Dance Troupe.
Daw, libre ang tuition fee. So I went in there not knowing anything to expect except free tuition. That's it. As you know, a provinciano who came from Samar, I don't know what all those terms, I don't know what Jasius was. So yun, nag-umpisa ako doon. I got hooked. After that, unfortunately, I discontinued UE. Hindi na ako nag-aral ulit. I was hoping I could graduate banking and finance. My parents really, nagalit sila at nagtatampo sa akin because they were expecting something else. In fact, they want me to be a US Navy. Akala nila, magiging bading ako. No, I am not bakla. I just like dance. I just like performing. They threatened me. I said, they will stop my allowance. They will stop their support to me. So, in such a way, I cried. Sabi ko naman sa sarili ko, sabi ko sila, don't worry, I will prove something to you that I am worth it. I am worth this art. I can do this art without your support.
Si Tony Llacer ang naging daan para makapasok si Froilan sa Cultural Center of the Philippines at sa Alice Reyes Modern Dance Company noong unang bahagi ng 1970.
Tony Llacer was invited to teach for a month at the Cultural Center. Of course, hatak-hatak niya ako. Tony Llacer was being groomed to be the ballet master of the Alice Reyes Modern Dance Company. I was in the right place at the right time.
Nangangailangan noon ng lalaking mananayaw na maaaring mahasa bilang lead male dancer.
Manny Molina was about to leave in a month's time. Alice Reyes was desperately looking for that moment that who will take over all his role as lead dancer. Sabi ni Alice, "Noy, can you study this?" I said, "Okay."
Nagbukas ang sunod-sunod na oportunidad sa kanyang buhay. Bumilis ang pag-angat niya. Si Froilan na marahil ang Pilipinong mananayaw na naging bida sa pinakamaraming classical ballet. Dahil sa kanyang malakas na pangangatawan, musikalidad at mahusay na dance technique, sumikat rin siya bilang magaling na kapartner sa sayaw.
Whenever I was their partner, they're always confident that ako magiging partner nila because secure sila. With me, hindi sila matutumba because ang aking foundation, ang aking paa ay solid at malakas. At saka yung aking body was solid enough to hold them in a position that they won't fall.
siya ay naging paboritong kapareha ng mga bantog na mananayaw ng classical ballet at modern dance.
The most memorable ballerina was Yuko Morishita. She's a Japanese ballerina. The first time we danced together was the Giselle. It's called Ballet Giselle. And from that time, it changed my life. It changed my career. Parang yung career ko after that performance with Yuko Morishita, parang it just went up.
Sa bilang at kalidad ng kanyang mga ginampanan, si Froilan ay maituturing na pinakamahusay na lalaking mananayaw ng kanyang panahon. Ipinamalas ni Froilan na ang papel ng lalaking mananayaw ay hindi lang taga-alalay sa prima ballerina, bagkus ang pagsasayaw ng isang balerino ay maaaring maging isang matagumpay na karera. Sa pagretiro niya sa entablado noong 1993, ay natuon siya sa pagtuturo at sa koreografiya.
You know, to be a choreographer, you have to be a storyteller. Some of them say, you don't have to tell story, Noy. Sabi ko, no. Whatever you do on that stage, you have to tell me something. Just because you're not choreographing something like Manubo or Eita, hindi ka Filipino. I am a modern Filipino, I would say. I'm not a millennial, but my idea is very updated to the incoming new breed of dancers, new breed of idea. I'm 70 years old. I'm still learning how to teach. We have to continue learning. We have to continue our effort to let Filipino know that, hey, art's still alive in the Philippines. Kasi tayo talaga marunong magmahal sa ating bansa. Hindi politicians. Ang artist talaga, we are trustworthy, we are loyal, we are honest, we are the most, colorful individual. We have the brain of many politicians. We are analytical, we are God-fearing, spiritual. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, pero pagdating sa art, magkakasundo tayo lahat.
Dahil sa buong buhay na kontribusyon niya sa pag-unlad at pagsulong ng sayaw sa bansa,
ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Rafael Catalino Nonoy Froilan ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa sayaw.
Sabi ko sa inyo, sasayaw na lang ako, hindi ako sanay magsalita. I was born on this stage to dance, not to speak. Well, anyway, sandali, salamin ko. Good afternoon, my colleagues and friends in the world of dance. To our National Artist for Dance, Alice Reyes, and to Margie Moran, Florendo. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good afternoon. It is my honor and privilege to accept the Gawad CCP Para sa Sining Award. It is certainly a very proud and humbling experience for me to hold this medal. I sincerely thank the CCP Artistic Awarding Committee members, and the CCP Board of Trustees for giving me the prestigious award. Of course, it will not be unmentioned the people that at one time became my mentor and teachers. As the saying goes, when the student is ready, the guru appears. Cora Iniego, my first guru, the former artistic director of UE Dance Troupe and the UP Filipiniana Dance Company. She was the one who first opened the door for me to dance. Of course, Tunil Yazer, a very patient and caring mentor. He brought me under his wing and taught me the basic rudiment of ballet technique and discipline relentlessly for 3 years. I carried that during my entire career in dance. Julie Borromeo of the Dance Art Studio for giving me the free training in ballet, jazz, and tap. And by the way, it was Margie Moran and me who started under Tunil Yazer at Dance Art Studio. The Borromeo family for opening their home to me during my uncertain time in Manila when I was just starting. Alice Reyes and Eddie Ilihar for their tenacity and purposeness to create the CCP Dance Workshop Company. If it didn't happen, I won't be here today. To our national artist for dance, Alice Reyes, for her vision of putting up the continuation and continuing the dance company for years that inspired and challenged me beyond the limit. Her tireless spirit and foresight has brought many of us dancers, choreographers, theater actors, and artists the range of possibility of becoming who we are now. Mr. Rudy Vidal, our company photographer for years, the man to run to when in need of music for choreography, and the man who helped me in my moment of need. Fidel and Amparo, my parents, I thank them for giving me the breath of life on this world. And my life inspiration, my family, Edna, Micaela, Rafi, the genes have been planted. Edna Vida, my partner on stage and in life, has been my collaborator, my feared critique, my coach, mabagsik ngunit walambing na tagapuna ng aking pagsayaw. Walang lusot, hindi pwede ang pwede na, wika niya. Her critical eyes had made me conscious of my dancing and artistry. Yes, 53 years ago, in 1996, I entered the lobby of the Cultural Center of the Philippines. I was a provinciano who was just wanted to finish a college degree and become an accountant or work in a bank. With a ticket in my hand, all that I know was that I will be watching a ballet performance. I was ushered to the balcony at the third row. As I looked down to the beautiful red-colored seat and carpet, and gazed at the Ocampo tapestry and the grandiose auditorium that just engulfed me. As the curtain goes up, the small figures of dancers, because ulo lang nakikita ko, started to fill up the stage. At that very moment, I felt a thunderbolt hitting my head. I was transfixed and awed. It was a sheer magical moment in my life. I was watching the Alice Reyes Modern Dance Company. After the 2-hour show, I was a changed man. On the jeepney ride home, with my hand holding the overhead rail of the jeep, the image of the dancers, the set, costumes, lights, and music kept on flashing in and out of my head. And I kept telling myself that one day I will dance on that stage. Although I started late at 18, it did not bother me. I immersed into dance training with Tony Lazer, taking all his technique classes, wherever he taught, and as many as I could take for 3 years. Then, a new door opened to me. Yes, literally, I opened the door of the rehearsal hall where Tony Lazer was invited to teach in the company class. I suddenly realized that I was surrounded by these dancers I saw 3 years ago. Oh my goodness, it was so intimidating. Oh, by the way, I paid 30 pesos for taking the company class. Alice Reyes approached me and Tony Lazer later on, asking me if I would be interested to become a company trainee. Of course, without hesitation, I said yes. The next thing I knew, I was asked to watch a video of Season of Flight and study the lead parts. And alone, watching this video, I whispered to myself, oh my God, I made it. It was a right place. I was in the right place at the right time. Then for 22 years, I committed myself to dance, transforming my inflexible body into a Don Jose, a Romeo, a prince, a pirate, a wayfarer. And for 8 hours daily, sometimes more, I never stopped. After years of trying, I finally was able to do a leg split. I bore all the pain of sprained toes, ankles, shoulder, twisted knee, cramped muscle, and endless rehearsal. Sometimes we even forget the time and day of the year. I was practically married to dance and Edna Vida. The CCP became my second home, and this stage became my daily stomping ground. I challenged my body to create that illusion I saw from the balcony too before. I created the body that worked in dance. And when the applause came, all the aches and pains are gone. With this medal, I will carry this medal in my heart wherever I go. It will be a shining beacon of hope for future dancers. They only need a spark of inspiration, perseverance, and good mentor to reach the goal. I was that provincial guy seated at the balcony 253 years ago, now standing on this stage holding this medal of recognition. I recall my Lola once told me, El hombre propone, e Dio dispone. Man proposes and God disposes. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat na rito ngayon, and to God be the glory. Thank you.
Isang masigabong palakpakan muli para kina Binibining Luwalhati Bautista, Ginoong Kenneth Cobonpue, Ginoong Clodoaldo A. Del Mundo Jr., Ginoong Antonio Fabella, at Ginoong Catalino Froilan.
Mainit na pagbati po sa inyong lahat at maraming salamat. Alam mo ba, Arma, na ng Gawad CCP para sa sining ay ang pinakamataas na pagkilala na iginagawad ng Sentro Pangkultura ng Pilipinas para sa mga artista ng ating bayan.
Kaya naman, ipinagmamalaki talaga nating lahat ang mga alagad ng sining na ginagawaran ng pagkilalang ito. Siya nga pala, ang mga awardees para sa taong 2020 ay ngayon lamang aakyat ng entablado dahil nga po sa pandemya.
Kaya naman nagpapasalamat tayong lahat at nabigyan ng pagkakataon ang pagtitipong ito.
At upang maghandog ng isang natatanging bilang, narito si Aidan Ezra Baracol.
Maraming salamat, Aidan Ezra Baracol.
Dumako na tayo sa pagkakaloob ng parangal para sa ikalawang pangkat ng mga natatanging artista ng Gawad CCP para sa Sining 2020.
Ang mga Gawad CCP para sa Sining awardees ay kinikilala rin para sa kanilang pagiging tapat sa kulturang Pilipino at paghalaw ng inspirasyon, materyales at konsepto mula sa ating mayamang tradisyon.
Ito ay isang paraan ng pagbibigay pugay sa bansa at tanda rin ng kanilang katapatan sa sining at kulturang Pinoy. Isa itong inspirasyon para sa mga susunod na henerasyon ng mga artista, manlilikha at mga alagad ng sining.
Well, there are different aspects of Asian art. Asian art or Asian aesthetics is not just one thing. It consists of several branches. We can speak
Si
of...
Alice V. Guillermo, isang mahusay na guro, historiador ng sining at kritiko. Sa pamamagitan ng kanyang mahusay na pagsaliksik at kritikal na pagsusulat, nakatulong siya upang maitakda ang landas ng pag-aaral ng sining sa Pilipinas. Ipinanganak siya sa Quiapo, Maynila noong 1938.
So I was her student in one of the undergrad courses, I think art criticism, you know. She was very mild-mannered, soft-spoken, no? Mahihiyain nga, mahihiyain. Actually, parang siya pa yung nahihiya na magsalita. Pero when she goes into a lecture mode, oh my God, the sharpness talaga para alam mo yun, yung sharpness that bleeds. Palagi niya sinasabi, the importance of art as social transformation. In a way that was unheard of before. Sa public education kasi ako no? Na, you know, art is just showcase, decoration, hobby. When a person says or your professor says na, art is for social transformation, oh my God.
Mula nang lumabas ang kanyang unang aklat, The Mobile Art Awards, noong 1981, ay nakapaglathala na siya ng 29 na aklat. Sa Social Realism in the Philippines at Protest Revolutionary Art 1970 to 1990, tinalakay niya ang paglago at pag-unlad ng politikal na sining sa Pilipinas sa panahong sinupil ang kalayaan. Ang mga akdang ito ay ginagamit bilang sanggunian ng mga lokal at internasyonal na universidad.
I think coming from martial law, she saw the importance of, you know, looking at these particular terms, dalawa, social realism. She was in a way leading that, again, art criticism kasi, articulation of the way a group of artists, yung mga social realists, have used art as a weapon. Ito yung mga grupo ng artists na may sinakripisyo sa buhay, no? Kabuhayan, buhay mismo, etc. No? So, ang sa kanya, if you're going to say na art and society, yung society part mo should be a broadened view and not just for the elite few who could buy. Ngayon nakikita mo, even yung mga artworks of ng mga nag-underground. Oh my God, so meron pa ng ganung parallel universe, parallel timeline na hindi alam.
Ang kanyang mga kritikal na review sa mga dyaryo at magazine ay nakatulong na mailapit ang sining sa publiko. Napataas niya ang antas ng pagsusulat ng kritisismo sa sining dahil na rin sa kanyang mahusay at matalas na estilo ng pagsusulat.
I remember no, Observer Business Day, no. It could be weekly, articles on artists, Filipino artists, or specific artwork, no. I think she also believed in the idea of the democratization of art, no. That art cannot be limited to an elite few. So that's why she committed herself in writing for the mass publications.
Ang maraming aklat at textbook na inakda niya at katuwang niyang isinulat ay nakapag-ambag ng malaki sa scholarship. Ang mga textbook na ito ay mga pangunahing babasahin sa mga kurso sa kolehiyo. Nakapagsulat siya ng malawak at komprehensibong kasaysayan ng sining sa Pilipinas. Napatunayan ng lirikal at madulas na estilo ng kanyang panulat na pwedeng gawing magaan ang paraan ng pagsusulat sa akademya at maaaring maging kaaya-aya ang pagbasa at pag-unawa sa sining.
Democratization of art is not just about artists per se, it's also form, no? So yung mga kartonista, mga nasa comics, no? O kaya yung mga nasa billboards. I think I particularly remember her lecture on yung mga lililikha nila para sa mga multi-million peso na pelikula na ipapalabas ng mga magagandang pero yung buhay ng mga artist na yan ay naghihirap, no? Parang daily wage. So makikita mo ngayon yung buong mundo noong production of art. Hindi lang siya istorya ng artwork, istorya siya ng malaking mundo ng Pilipinas, no? Na ito yung ang ganda-ganda ginagawa nila. Nakikinabang ay mga mayayaman din at may kaya. Pero yung mismong simpleng artist na yun, ang billboard, ay naghihirap. So, kasama siya doon dapat sa istorya na yun at dapat yun alam pag tinuturo.
Nanguna si Guillermo sa pagpapalaganap ng pamantayan kung paano at susuriin ang isang artwork o imahen. Ito ay nagpayaman sa paraan ng pagtuturo ng sining at nakaimpluwensya sa mga henerasyon ng mga guro at mag-aaral.
Pioneer siya kasi nandun siya dun sa paradigm shift nga noong idea ng art in context, art and society. Na hindi lang ang sining ay para lang magsulat ng naganap na, kaya ay magbigay ng analysis. Para sa kanya talaga, yung pagsusulat ay isang klase ng sandata, isang weapon. No? At yung salita na yon, whether sa kritisismong pansining, ay makakapagbago ng lipunan.
This imagination, you have a whole series, a whole crowd, no, a throng.
Para sa kanyang buong buhay na itinuon bilang isang guro, kritiko at historiador ng sining sa Pilipinas, at sa kanyang pagtulong na maitakda ang direksyon ng pag-aaral ng sining sa bansa.
Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginang Alice Guillermo ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa pananaliksik pangkultura. Ang posthumous award na ito ay tatanggapin ng kanyang kinatawan na si Ginoong Diego Guillermo. Para ipagkaloob ang parangal para sa ikalawang grupo ng 2020 Gawad CCP para sa Sining Awardees, narito si Ginoong Benedict Carandang.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of my late grandmother, Alice Guillermo, I humbly accept this honor. Having been raised under her and Helasio, I have only warmth in speculating their presence this evening. I thank the Cultural Center of the Philippines for for bestowing this award, as well as everybody present and their support. My mother, who's in the audience, and other relatives and friends. It's been said that one cannot build anything new without first having a sound appreciation of what already exists. Knowledge, education, history, and the sense of identity, all are cornerstones in the development of true progressive thought, the search for truth, and the advancement of a society of people. Art can only be an expression of a people's dreams and aspirations, experiences, desires, anxieties, and hopes. Intended purpose may vary: to entertain, provoke thought, to inspire, but always a reflection of the people and the society that produces it. Alice was first and foremost an educator. Her legacy in the field of art is beyond compare. This is part of the reason why I never tried to compete. History is my shtick, but like art, history cannot be divorced from a society's experiences and aspirations. History can be many things, but chief among them, when viewed through the lens of one's civic duties, is as a transaction ledger of a nation's assets and liabilities, made ever more clear through study with each passing day, and paid for in the blood and toil of those who came before us, all for our benefit and that of future generations, the stakeholders of this patch of earth with all its responsibilities. Considering recent events and trends, part of me originally thought that to receive this award now would be most unfortunate. The youth are becoming ever more deprived of general education, of the humanities. Law may arbitrarily place value on human life as part of the social contract, but the humanities give meaning, gives answers to how and why it is valuable. It is through the humanities that humanity is appreciated and advanced, and we are slowly losing sight of this. What use would my grandmother's legacy be as it all slowly drifts seemingly into irrelevance? No. I have since come to the conclusion that there is no better time to receive this award than now. It, as well as those of the other awardees, is an affirmation that her work, their work, and the humanities are important and recognized. This recognition is needed now more than ever. With this recognition comes the preservation of hope that tomorrow, the next day, someday, the clouds will pass, and Alice, her fellow educators, and their life's work will all remain. This legacy imparted in the minds of those who will build upon it, on those who will build the better tomorrow. Thank you.
Si Nestor Horfilia ay isang manggagawang pangkultura na may malalim na dedikasyon sa gawaing pandula. Ipinanganak sa Cebu noong 1955. Siya ay lumaki at nag-aral sa syudad ng Davao at Marawi. Lumipat siya sa Cebu at nagtapos ng anthropology sa University of San Carlos.
I was in Cebu from 75 to 81. Then I went back to Davao, where my residence is. And I got a chance to reintegrate with colleagues with Kulturang Atin Foundation. I was then the training officer of Kulturang Atin Foundation, and I started a program for theater training for the whole of Mindanao. My colleagues in cultural work, we were able to organize a Mindanao-wide network of theater groups, community-based and school-based, which we called the Mindanao Community Theater Network, or MCTN.
There was martial law. There were initiatives at using theater to fight the culture of silence, against suppression, against human rights violation. There was a conscious search for indigenous expressions because of the Filipino identity. We wanted to really be an expression of Filipino identity.
Ang MCTN ang naging larangan ng kolaborasyon ng mga artista, mandudula, musikero, mananayaw, at iba pang mga alagad ng sining.
And learning plays serve as a vehicle for networking, for education, for training people in community theater.
Iniluwal ng kolaborasyon ang sinalimba tungkol sa kabayanihan ng mga komunidad sa Bukidnon. Ang Lawig Balanghay ay tumatalakay sa sinaunang sibilisasyon sa Agusan ayon sa mga nahukay na artifact ng Pambansang Museo sa Butuan City.
We work with communities in order to contribute to the development of communities. That's a way of shaping. But we were also served. We were also shaped by the communities.
Mula 1988 ay naging aktibo si Horfilia sa Kaliwat Theater Collective.
He loves community theater and community interaction. And he wants to elevate this to the level of mainstream. Nestor as researcher would be, the research materials will enrich the art, and the research material will strengthen the artist.
Ang siyak sa duha kadamgo na itinuturing ni Horfilia na pinakaabanteng ebolusyon ng learning play ay naglalagom ng 10 taong integrasyon sa mga komunidad ng Arakan, Cotabato.
Remember, I am your only father and you are only my son.
Working with Kaliwat enabled us to create a lot of milestone, creating learning plays, mastering the group device processes, but embarking on theater criticism. We love our theater, and we sometimes love one another. So we critique our works, we critique our methodologies in working with the IP communities. And the IP communities led us to a phase in which we jump into what we call network organizing for IP communities, for ancestral domain protection, for fulfillment of IP rights, for ancestral domain sustainable development and protection plan, and for IP networking all over Mindanao.
Isang mahalagang nagawa ng Kaliwat ay ang pagpapalitaw ng maraming alagad ng sining na nagsulong sa estetikang tumatalakay sa Mindanao.
When I was writing his story, I was crying because I said, wow. I was telling my friends, I'm not a cultural worker, I'm just a development worker. Nestor is the cultural worker. He dedicated his whole life there in cultural work. I didn't.
Sa pagpasok ng bagong milenyo, nagpatuloy si Horfilia sa buhay na pag-aaral. Lumubog siya sa mga komunidad ng mga subanen sa Lakewood, Zamboanga del Sur.
Meron pang maraming pwedeng gawin aside from doing theater. And that's when my immersion with the indigenous communities brought me into the advocacy for safeguarding of indigenous cultural heritage. And it is when I started documenting for natural resource management and cultural resource management and documenting ICH of the communities, Subanans, and in other IP groups in Mindanao, especially the documentation of Buklog, which was declared by the General Assembly of the UNESCO in 2019 as an intangible heritage of humanity in need for urgent safeguarding.
Para sa 5 dekadang gawain sa teatro at sining na nagbigay ng mahalagang aral kung paano isinasagawa ang pangkulturang gawain sa komunidad at pagpapakita ng kahalagahan nito sa pag-unlad ng pambansang kultura.
Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Nestor Horfilia ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa pananaliksik at gawaing pangkultura.
Maayong gabi sa tanan. Congratulations to all the awardees karong gabi. Bong salamat, Cultural Center of the Philippines. I just would like to acknowledge my gratitude to my fellow Mindanaoan cultural workers with Fere Montigue, who shares our sense of mission to shape and be shaped. My experience in different communities of various cultures in the Visayas and Mindanao had shaped me. And in turn, it enabled me to help them shape and carve a future of their own. Our brand of cultural work in Mindanao is shaping peaceful communities, and in the process, have shaped ourselves to become better persons in advocating culture-responsive governance, in strengthening the culture-creating capacities of the grassroots, and in helping building a fairer world for all. Akong kinasingkasing nga pagyupo sa mga timoy nga masubanon sa Lakewood, Zamboanga del Sur, sa mga Manobo in Arakan Valley, the Blaans in Sultan Kudarat, and the communities of the Bangsamoro in Cotabato, Basilan, Tawi-Tawi, Labangan. Daghang kayong salamat o kaninyong tanan, wasalam.
Ang Integrated Performing Arts Guild na tinatawag ring IPAG, ang opisyal na grupong pantanghalan ng Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology. Nagsimula ang kwento ng IPAG sa panahon ng martial law noong 1970s. Ang kinikilalang father of MSU IIT na si Vice President Manaros Buransing ay nagsikap na buhayin ang sining at kultura sa panahon ng batas militar. Hinimok niya si Ligaya Amilbangsa ng MSU Tawi-Tawi na lumipat sa Iligan upang pamunuan ang pagtatatag ng Performing Arts Program sa MSU IIT campus. Sari-saring pangkat ang dinatnan ni Amilbangsa noong 1978 sa MSU IIT. Hinimok niyang magkaisa ang mga grupo sa ilalim ng pangalang Integrated Performing Arts Guild. Si Steve Patrick Fernandez, isa sa mga kasaping nagtatag ng IPAG, ang naging artistic director ng grupo sa loob ng mahigit na 4 na dekada. Sa simula ay kakaunti ang kanilang manonood at mahirap ang produksyon dahil sa limitadong budget. Pero nagbunga ang pagsisikap ng magtagumpay ang dulang Sari Manok noong 1981.
It was Sari Manok that was our milestone, our, how do you say that, our turning point. Combining both the pangalay as a method and the techniques of contemporary and modern dance. It was a good starting point, and from Sari Manok and Siliman, we went on to UP. And, no one could stop us.
Hanggang sa nakilala ang grupo sa mga palabas na hango sa karanasan ng tri-people ng Mindanao. Ang Lumad, ang Moro, at ang mga Kristiyanong lumikas at nanirahan sa Southern Philippines noong 20th century. Ang mga katutubong alamat, mito, at kwentong bayan ang pinagkukunan ng IPAG para makalikha ng mga orihinal na akda na sumasalamin sa mga napapanahong isyung panglipunan. Ang Ranaw, isang alamat, ay kwento ng epic hero na si Bato Lakungan.
Ako ng lakas dahil ako ang lulunas.
Ang The Abduction of Arkat Alawanin na unang ipinalabas noong 1998 ay isang dance drama na hango sa epikong Darangin. Sa paraan ng pagtatanghal, ginagamit ang mga tradisyonal na sayaw, musika, ritual, at iba pang sining na iniangkop sa pagpapalabas sa tanghalan. Ang datu-matu ay tungkol sa pagtutol ng mga Moro sa pananakop ng Amerikano. Ang datu mangkalasi ay halaw sa buhay ng isang Agusanong manobo na lumaban sa isang magtotroso na suportado ng militar noong dekada 1980. Sa uwahig, ginamit ang isang alamat ng mga taga-Bukidnon tungkol sa pagkagunaw ng mundo. Sinikap ng ipag na iugnay ang buhay na tradisyon ng Pilipinas sa mga tradisyon ng Asya. Mahalagang halimbawa nito ang Sita, The Ramayana Revisited, isang pagsasalaysay muli ng epikong Ramayana na ang tagpuan ay sa Pilipinas. Naitanghal ito noong 2019 sa Ayodhya, kung saan ipinanganak si Rama.
So, the pangalay ligaya po, for example, to us, or the eagle, as other southern Philippine groups would call it, will have connections, its relations to the larger Southeast Asian dance characteristics, something which I have had the privilege to experience, being to Indonesia, to Thailand, and even to Japan. And the highlights of all of this, and I think it is the highlight, is for us to be accepted into the world of the Ramayana. We do not have that heritage here, yet we have translated it into a form which we call Sita, the Ramayana Revisited, into a form that has been readily accepted by not only Hindus, but Thais, Vietnamese, etc., Malays, Indonesians, to become now a major part of our repertoire and a major part of the whole Ramayana repertoire of the world.
Sa pamamagitan ng pagpapaunlad ng mga masugid na alagad ng sining at kultura na may pananaw na makapaglingkod sa komunidad, naaangkupan ng ipag ang sunod-sunod na pagpapalabas sa loob at labas ng bansa sa loob ng maraming dekada.
We do have a vision, and that vision is creating a theater that can provide not only for the professional needs of our artists, but that can provide for a window to our community. In fact, our vision here is creating a professional theater company. There is none outside of Metro Manila. And somehow we know that we are not yet truly successful in, providing the needs, the economic needs of our members, but then we are going through that. And through the years, well, here we are, striving, going through the challenges, and living in a very inspiring mood.
Para sa mahigit 40 taong paglikha ng mga dula, na naitanghal sa humigit kumulang sa 100 syudad sa Pilipinas at sa ibang bansa. Para sa mga palabas na nagtaguyod ng dangal ng sining at kulturang Pilipino.
Ibinagkakaloob sa Integrated Performance Arts Guild o IPAG ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa pangangalaga ng pamana. Upang tanggapin ang sertipiko ng pagkilala, ang kinatawan ng IPAG ay si Steven Patrick Fernandez, Artistic Director.
Mayong gabi kaninyong tanan. I have with me here representatives of the generations of the Integrated Performing Arts Guild, the original, Ricky Calwen, the next generation, Archie Pacana, Arlem M. Abanes after Archie, the next generation, and the latest generation, Neil Arki, Askuna, who now sits as the Executive Director. Thank you very much, CCP. Thank you, President Margie Moran, the rest of our communities. 45 years ago, the Integrated Performing Arts Guild, or IPAG, crafted a vision of a performing arts company that allowed the freedom to inquire, discover, explore, advocate as the arts have always been. Art's cause is the enhancement of our lives. Enlightenment begets enhancement, a process that can only be inspired by the critical scrutiny art offers, and history proves this. We have upheld theater not as mere entertainment, but as a medium for reformations to mirror our conditions in the most engaging ways. The establishment of IPAG was propitious. Not only had it imbibed the region's artistic and cultural wealth, but IPAG pioneered in building a company that has received the respect of wide national and international audiences. The knowledge engendered by our experiences was inspired by subversions from the conventional. Tonight testifies how a performing company of homegrown artists can triumph. Being subalterns on the fringes of mainstream theater, IPAG has asserted its role to ride parallel with the most active of our theaters. In our provincial corners, IPAG has refused to be cowed to strengthen the integrity of our vision. So we find our lights now more focused, brighter, among warm bodies, when the Cultural Center of the Philippines recognizes us with its highest distinction, the Gawad Para sa Sining. In the last 5 years, IPAG has been feted with some of the country's more prestigious awards. These recognitions testify to the impact of how performance mirrors the vicissitudes of humanity and reinforces the integrity of our culture. Theater safeguards our freedom, our rights as humans, our spirituality, our identity, the family as core of society, and the assurance to protect the opportunities that life provides. But performance will not be complete without our audiences, our communities, our peers, because theater is only as good as the collaborations it gathers. I cannot mention all those who have been part of our journeys. The institutions who believe in what we do, our host, the MSU Iligan Institute of Technology, the CCP whose portals opened to allow us to become part of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, our international partners, particularly the Asia-Pacific Bond of Theater Schools and the Asian League of Institutes of Arts, and of course, Ligaya, Fernando, Amil Bangsa, and the original 12, Ricky being a part, who 45 years ago were inspired only by the prospect of putting a cultural program. So even as we navigate the unwieldy crest, we now shift full steam ahead in the post-pandemic. We share this victory with our communities, with you, and the nation without whom we will not be able to stand before you tonight. We continue to be gatekeepers of our values and community, and we celebrate. Daghan salamat kaninyong tanan.
Ang Liwayway ay isang magazine na naging saksi sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. Ito ay isinilang sa panahon na nagluwag ang sensura sa iba't ibang paraan ng pamamahayag sa ilalim ng rehimeng Amerikano. taong 1922 nang inilathala ang Liwayway magazine. Pinalaganap ng Liwayway ang mga akda na nasa wikang Filipino. Isa sa inilathala ng Liwayway ang Lola Basyang ni Severino Reyes na hanggang ngayon ay gustong-gusto ng madla at naisalin sa iba't ibang uri ng sining. Noong 1929, ipinakilala ng Liwayway si Kengkoy, isang karakter na nilikha ng manunulat at ilustrador na si Tony Velasquez. Matalino at isang fashionista si Kengkoy. Naging popular ang seryeng Mga Kabalbalan ni Kengkoy dahil sa mga nakatutuwang kalokohan ni Kengkoy at ng kanyang mga kaibigan. Tinalakay ng serye ang iba't ibang pagbabago sa kultura na naranasan ng mga Pilipino. Halimbawa ay ang paghikayat ng mga Amerikanong magsalita ng Ingles na nauwi sa Carabao English. Hindi matatawaran ang libu-libong tumangkilik at nagbasa ng Liwayway na siyang naglathala ng mga isinulat nina Gregorio Coching, Fausto Galauran, Lazaro Francisco at Susana de Guzman. Ang mga paksa ay tungkol sa hindi naabot na pangarap, hindi magkasundong pamilya, prostitusyon, at malaking pagitan ng mayaman at mahirap. Para lumawak pa ang maabot ng magazine sa buong Pilipinas, naglathala si Don Ramon Roses ng mga kapatid ng Liwayway sa iba't ibang wika. Ang Magasing Bisaya noong 1932, ang Hiligay Nun noong 1934, ang Bicol Nun noong 1935, at Banawag noong 1940. Matapos ang ikalawang digmaang pandaigdig, itinampok ng mga nobelista ng Liwayway ang mga kalunos-lunos na pangyayaring dulot ng digmaan. Ilan sa mga akdang ito, 1,000,000 piso ni Macario Pineda at Panagimpan ni Jose Gonzales. Patuloy itong naglathala ng mga kawili-wiling panulat mula 1950s hanggang 1970s. Pero hindi nito tinalikuran ang pagtalakay sa mga isyung pampolitika at pang-ekonomiya, gaya ng korupsyon, political dynasties, private armies, at lumalalang suliraning agraryo. Para sa pagpapalaganap ng wikang Filipino at sa pagtataguyod sa nobela, maikling katha at mga kwentong comics, para sa pagbubukas nito sa mga manunulat na humamon sa tradisyon at umakda ng mga makabagong interpretasyon ng mundo, at para sa paglathala ng mga likhang nauukol sa mga katotohanang panlipunan.
Ipinagkakaloob sa Liwayway Magazine ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa pagtaguyod ng kultura. Upang tanggapin ang sertipiko ng pagkilala, ang kinatawan ng Liwayway Magazine ay si Johannes Chua, Editor-in-Chief.
Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. No? Naging gabi na. No? Sa mga natatanging awardees at sa pamunuan ng Sentrong Pangkultura ng Pilipinas, maraming salamat po. Ako po ay nagagalak na maghatid ng taus-pusong pasalamat mula sa pamunuan ng The Manila Bulletin. Ang Manila Bulletin ang publisher ng Liwayway. At mula sa aming chairman na si Basilio Yap at president na si Dr. Emil C. Yap III, tinatanong namin na isang malaking karangalan ang pagkilala na ito mula sa CCP. Nais ko lamang pong ipaalam sa inyong lahat ngayong gabi na napakaganda ng timing ng award na ito. No? Dahil sa darating na 2 buwan ay sasapit na ang ika-100 taon ng Liwayway. Maraming salamat po. Ito po ay napakabigat dahil 100 years po ito. No? Kaya pagbigyan niyo muna ako magsalita konti. Ang unang issue ng Liwayway ay lumabas noong Nobyembre ng 1922. At ikinagagalak kong ipaalam sa inyo na mayroong pa ring issue na darating sa Nobyembre 2022. Ito ay isang siglo. At narito po, mahawak ko ang katunayan ng Liwayway. Ang Liwayway na marahil ang pinakamatagal at nag-iisang magazine sa wikang Filipino. Kahit ano pa man ang mangyari sa mundo, magkaroon man ng kudeta o pandemya, patuloy ang paglabas ng issue ng Liwayway. Hindi napatid ang paghatid namin ng mga kwento at tula, lathalain at comics. Kahit na maraming pagsubok, nagbalik kami sa print na edition upang mapalapit ito sa mas maraming mga Pilipino. Ako ay naging patnugot ng Liwayway nitong nakaraang taong lamang. Kaya nararapat na ibahagi ko ang award na ito sa lahat ng nagtaguyod ng Liwayway mula kay Don Ramon Roses na siyang lumikha sa Liwayway noong 1922 hanggang sa mga patnugot na sina Severino Reyes, Jose Esperanza Cruz, Pedrito Reyes, Catalino Flores, Jose Carasig, Gervasio Santiago, Bienvenido Ramos, Rodolfo Salandanan, Reynaldo Duque at Angie Perez. Kailangan banggitin ko silang lahat, baka humultuhin nila ako pag hindi ko ginawa. Gusto ko rin magbigay pugay kay Ginoong Perry Mangilaya at Wilson Fernandez. Maraming salamat dahil sila ang humalili sa Liwayway na matagal na panahon. At sa mga kolumnista at kontributor, gaya ni Vim Nadera, Dr. Luis Gatmaytan, Pat Villafuerte, Egay Samar, Rico Raval, Armando Javier at Yvette Tan. Napanid ninyo kanina ang nakaraan ng Liwayway. Ito naman ang parating. Ang binigay na mandato sa akin ng pamunuan ay gawing makabuluhan ang Liwayway para sa mga kabataan. Sa pagdiwang ng sentenaryo, maraming mangyayari gaya ng pagtipalak para sa mga kabataang manunulat at mga libro na ililimbag. Ito ay mailapit upang malapit ang Liwayway sa mga kabataan na pangunahing audience ng Liwayway noong unang panahon. Ginamit na rin namin ngayon ang teknolohiya na ikinagagalak kong sabihin na ngayong araw ay ang launch ng aming podcast. No? So meron ng Liwayway podcast ngayon kung saan maririnig na sa Spotify ang mga kwento at mga tula. So, at isa pa ay ginamit rin namin ang Shopee at Lazada upang mabibili na ito. I think ito yata unang pagkakataon na nabanggit sa CCP ang Shopee at Lazada. So, pero yun nga ho, dahil gusto ko ipaalam sa inyo na talagang gusto namin ito na makarating sa lahat ng mga tahanan. So, mga bagong issue namin ngayon ay nagbibigay pugay na sa mga artists at mga writers. Mga kabataang artists gaya ni Randy Valiente, R.D. Aquino, Avril Paras at Anthony Palo. Ngayon, bago pa man naging pambansang alagad ng sining sina Lazaro Francisco, Amado Hernandez, Francisco Coching, Larry Alcala o Vicente Manansala, ang kanilang magawa at likha ay nalithala sa pahina ng Liwayway. Di lamang sila, kundi maging narinig niyo naman dito, kagaya ni Binibining Laluhati Bautista, no? Ang kanyang kwento ay nalathala din sa pahina ng Liwayway. Alam ko na sila ay nahikayat din na sumulat at lumikha dahil sa isang pagkakataon sa kanilang buhay ay binigyan sila ng pagkakataon ng Liwayway. Tulungan po ninyo ako na hindi ako ang maging huling patnugot ng Liwayway. Bigyan natin na pag-asa ang mga bagong manunulat at mga bagong comics artists at mga bagong mga artists. Bilang pagtatapos, nais kong lamang na personal na magpasalamat sa aking mga magulang na si Jimmy at Adela at sa aking mga kapatid at mga kaibigan, kagaya ng magaling na manunulat na si Raymond Magno Garlitos, kaibigan na si Regina Jimenez, Chris Datol, Rain Lorenzo at Renz Palermo. Ang pagmamahal sa panitikan ay nagmula sa aking guro, ang national artist na si Cirilo F. Bautista, at si Dr. Efren Abueg na pangunahing taga-suporta ng Liwayway. At malaki pasalamat sa aking mentor sa Manila Bulletin, ang executive editor na si Pinky Colmenares. Papasalamat din ako sa advertising, sa brands, marketing, circulations, graphics, at admin department sa Manila Bulletin. Dahil sa inyo, kaya meron po ito. Inaanyayahan ko yung lahat. Nastulungan kami dito dahil ang tagumpay ng Liwayway ay tagumpay ng sining sa ating bansa. Maraming salamat, mabuhay ang Liwayway, mabuhay ang CCP, mabuhay ang Manila Bulletin, at mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.
Si Danilo Danny Lirio Dolor ay isang komersyante na may masidhing pagmamahal sa kulturang Pilipino.
Kasi nung ako'y bata, ang akin talagang hilig pagkatapos ng high school ay mag-aral ng painting. Natutuwa lang ako. As an onlooker, as a fan, as a artistic collector, ganun lang. O kaya natutuwa ako sa lahat. Ano mang little effort ng isang tao na nakikita kong maganda, talaga hinahangaan ko.
Mula pagkabata ay saksi niya ang madalas na kantahan at tugtugan sa kanilang tahanan.
Pinanganak ako sa isang bahay na may piano. Sa Lipa. Sa Lipa, Batangas ako pinanganak 1938. So ang Batanggenyo, mahilig talaga sa music. At lalong-lalo na yung mga ganyan, kundi man yung mga sinaunang tugtog. Yan. So siguro doon na-develop.
Dahil sa hilig ni Dolor sa musika ng bansa, ay naitatag niya ang Tribong Pinoy o TP noong 1978. Binubuo ang TP noon ng koloratura soprano na si Gloria Coronel Dizon, tenor na si Renato Rey Almira, lyric soprano na si Lourdes Sauco Francisco, baritone na si Vladimir Valera, mezzo-soprano na si Erlinda Dacanay Azcuna, basso profundo na si Constancio Cadilina, at pianistang si Julie Mendoza. Naging matagumpay ang unang konsyerto ng grupo sa Cultural Center of the Philippines. Nagtanghal ang Tribong Pinoy ng serye ng mga konsyerto bilang pagkilala sa mga artista ng musika, gaya ni Atang de la Rama, Nicanor Abelardo, at Santiago Suarez. Noong 1986, ang O Batute ay itinanghal bilang alay kay Jose Corazon de Jesus.
At isinama kami ng CCP sa mga outreach programs. Ang audience, 100% or almost 99% students from different schools. Hindi maaaring hindi kakanta ng kundiman dahil kasi kasama yun talaga sa repertoire. Ang estudyante, pumapasok ang kanta, pumapalakpak. Hindi, ako'y happy na.
Noong 2015 hanggang 2017, ay regular na nagkonsyerto ang Tribong Pinoy sa Cultural Center of the Philippines na tinawag na Harana sa Dapit Hapon.
Binuo ko yung Harana sa Dapit Hapon. So iyon ay sa lobby. Doon sa malaking lobby sa Nicanor, sa Abelardo Hall. Na afternoon concert, alas 3, alas 4, at invitational. Very successful naman.
Mahal ni Dolor ang sining ng pelikula. Kasama na rin ang mga artistang gumanap dito. Mayroon siyang mga koleksyon tungkol sa pelikula, mga litrato ng artista at ng kanilang mga pelikula, at mga anunsyo ng pelikula o movie ad.
Kasi nung ako'y bata, nangungulekta na ako sa periodiko ng mga pinutol na movie ads. Ginugupit ko lahat yun. Iniipon ko sa box na mga empty boxes ng mga gamot. Pinag-iipon-ipon ko. Gumagawa ako ng parang building. Yung mga ginupit ko sa periodiko, ginaganyan-ganyan, kinakapit-kapit ko. Kunyari, nagpapalabas, oh, now showing, next picture, ba gano'n. Ganun lang. Yun ang hilig ko talaga.
2 exhibit ang nagpakita ng mahahalagang koleksyon niya. The Golden Years, Memorable Tagalog Movie Ads 1946 to 1956. At Alitap-Tap, Kikilap-Kilap, The First Golden Years of Philippine Cinema 1936 hanggang 1941. Naglathala rin si Dolor ng librong A Tribute to Movie Queen Carmen Rosales, Ang Tangi Kong Pag-ibig, na sinulat ni Manny Fernandez at inilunsad sa bulwagang silangan ng CCP noong taong 2013. Noong 1994, sinimulan niya ang column na Remember When sa Philippine Star, kasama si Ronald K. Constantino, tungkol sa mga personalidad at mga pangyayari sa pelikula mula sa panahon bago magkagyera hanggang matapos ang World War II.
Kinakailangan natin i-preserve na lahat yan para sa mga susunod na generation. Itong ating nalalaman ko ngayon, siyempre, nanggaling doon sa mga nauna. So itong mga nandito ngayon, dapat ituloy din para mapanood naman ang susunod.
Para sa kanyang pagpapaangat sa kamalayan ng marami at para sa pagdokumento, pagtaguyod at pangangalaga ng musika, pelikula at sining biswal ng Pilipinas.
Ang tanging parangal ay ipinagkakaloob sa individual o organisasyon upang kilalanin ang kanilang kontribusyon sa pagpapayaman ng sining at kultura sa bansa. Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Danilo Dolor ang 2020 Gawad CCP Tanging Parangal.
Buong puso ako nagpapasalamat sa pamunaan ng Sentrong Pangkultura ng Pilipinas sa parangal na itong iginawad sa akin. Ang pagpapalaganap ng mga awitin at tugtuging sariling atin, tulad ng kundiman, harana, balitaw at danza, ay isa rin sa mahalagang halimbawa ng paglilingkod sa inang bayan. At higit sa lahat, sa mga kabataan ito. At ito po ang naging adhikain ng inyong lingkod sa loob ng 44 na taon. Taus-puso akong nagbabahagi ng parangal na ito sa lahat ng mga alagad ng sining, mga artista at mga mang-aawit, tulad ng tribong Pinoy, nakiisa at kasama ko sa adhikaing ito. Maraming salamat pong muli. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat at mabuhay ang kulturang Pilipino. Thank you.
Pagpupugay po para sa yumaong ginang Alice Guillermo at mainit na pagbati para kay Ginoong Nestor Horfilia sa IPAG o Integrated Performance Arts Guild, Liwayway Magazine, at tanging parangal awardee Ginoong Danilo Dolor. Palakpakan po natin silang muli.
At sa bahaging ito ay hahandugan po tayo ni Binibining Stephanie Quintin ng isang espesyal na pagtatanghal.
sa kalangitan, sumisisid ka sa karagatan, musmos kang may natutuklasan sa mundong iyong palamuhan. Yakap mo ang mga damdamin, minubulat mga nahihimbing, buhay man ay handang hilaan sa paniniwalang tangan. Alagad ng sining, paghalaka at alipin, patuloy sa pagsinta,
Maraming salamat, Binibining Stephanie Quintin.
Mga kaibigan, dumating na po tayo sa huling pangkat ng mga alagad ng sining na ating pararangalan ngayong gabi. Mayroon pang 4 na Gawad CCP awardees ang ating kikilalanin.
The love for theater is simply, if it's there in you, why don't you let it grow? Why don't you let it develop and let the rest take care of itself?
Si Felix Nonon Padilla Jr. ay isang direktor sa teatro na lumikha ng mga akdang pawang mahahalagang kontribusyon sa kanon ng dulaang Pilipino. Ipinanganak siya noong 1950 sa Maynila. Nag-aral siya ng elementarya at high school sa Ateneo de Manila at nakatapos ng bachelier sa broadcasting at electives sa fine arts, drama at literature sa University of the Philippines sa Diliman. Sa Ateneo High School ay idinirihin niya ang Hoy Boyet Tinatawag Ka Na, Hating Gabinay Gising Ka Pa Pala ni Tony Perez sa paligsahan ng Dulaang Sibol. Kasama si Paul Dumol, ipinalabas nila ang Hoy Boyet sa Fort Santiago para sa summer workshop ng Philippine Educational Theater Association o PETA. Sa imbitasyon ni Cecil Guidote ay sumali si Padilla sa mga produksyon ng PETA. Mula noon ay naging mundo na niya ang teatro.
Cecil Guidote had just formed PETA and they had or held their first summer drama workshop at the Ateneo in Padre Faura. And Paul was tasked to direct a play, and he asked me if I could choreograph the segments in the play, which was, by the way, Hoy Boyet of Tony Perez. So that's how I got into PETA via that workshop.
Noong 1987, inanyayahan siya na magtatag ng bagong residenteng kumpanya ng teatro sa Cultural Center of the Philippines, ang Tanghalang Pilipino. Idinirihin niya ang unang produksyon nito, ang sarswelang Dalagang Bukid, habang nagsisilbi bilang Coordinator for Dramatic Arts para sa CCP.
Well, it was exciting, I guess, because it was a tabula rasa. We started from scratch, and we were given a budget. In many instances, I had to step in to be director of the place because we could not afford many talent fees for outside directors. It's like a cost-saving device that we had to rely on.
Itinatag ni Padilla ang Tanghalang Filipino Actors Company, ang nag-iisang full-time na permanenteng kumpanya para sa artista sa bansa. Binuo niya ang curriculum para sa pagsasanay ng mga miyembro nito. Nakilala ang mga aktor nito hindi lamang sa teatro kundi maging sa pelikula at telebisyon.
I wanted to establish and to pay professionally actors who could act for us through an entire repertory, through a season, to hone their craft, to give them their discipline, and to make them aware of the adjustments that an actor has to do in changing roles, changing characters, shifting from comedy to drama to historical plays.
Si Padilla ang naging artistic director ng Tanghalang Pilipino hanggang 2002. Idinirihin niya ang mga sarswelang Paglipas ng Dilim, Dularawan ng Pating, at Pilipinas circa 1907. Ang orihinal na mga dulang musikal na Noli Me Tangere, El Filibusterismo, Ilustrado, Ang Buhay ni Rizal, at Aguinaldo 1899, Ang Pagpatay kay Luna. ang mga orihinal na dulang tuluyan gaya ng Francisco Maniago sa North Diversion Road at Pinoy Agonistes. Namukod-tangi ang mga produksyong ito dahil gumamit ng malakas na imaheng biswal sa mga tagpuan at pagtatanghal at kinilala bilang mga produksyon na orihinal na dula na naging bahagi ng kanon ng teatro sa Pilipinas. Pangarap pa rin ni Padilla na magkaroon ng isang tunay na pambansang kompanya ng dulaan.
A national theater should be an organization, right, that supports. In other words, it shouldn't just be in Manila. Every region, right, should have a support of a theater, and to allow the youth, especially the youth, to explore their own abilities, their own dreams, their own problems through the arts. And I'm not just talking drama. I'm talking of painting, I'm talking of music, all the works of dance, etc., etc. But we don't give priority to these things.
Para sa lahat ng kanyang nagawa at kontribusyon sa dulaang Pilipino bilang isang direktor at tunay na alagad ng sining na Pilipino,
Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Felix Nonon G. Padilla Jr. ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa teatro. Para ipagkaloob ang parangal para sa ikatlong grupo ng 2020 Gawad CCP para sa Sining Awardees, narito si Binibining Alice Reyes, pambansang alagad ng sining para sa sayaw.
Gising pa ba kayo? Miss Margarita Moran Floirendo, President of the CCP, Dr. Jaime Laya, the new Chairman of the Board, members of the Board of Trustees, the Board of Judges, fellow awardees, fellow artists, Alice Reyes, National Artist for Boogie Woogie. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Back in 1985, I was accidentally employed at the CCP. I had been in a voluntary basis assisting Ray Albano, the museum director, in setting up the retrospective of graphic works by Ofelia Helveson Tequi at the main gallery when Ray suddenly died of pulmonary complications. Ms. Casilag asked me to take over the project and subsequently hired me to take Ray's position as museum director. The next year, the EDSA revolution erupted. It was February. At that time, I was in New York on a grant from the International Media Studies Foundation. I had directed Tony Perez's Biyaheng Timog, or A Small Matter of Sacrifice, which received a positive review in the New York Times. Then the upheaval in Manila happened. A new government was established with Cory Aquino as the new president of the country. Nick Tiongson was appointed as the new artistic director of the CCP. I got a call from Nick asking me to come home ASAP to resume my job as museum director, but with a peculiar request. could I set up a new theater company, a new resident company. He said he wanted to start from scratch since the old theater company of Rolando Tino was closing shop. In short, I came home from my grant with a new mandate. That was how Tanghalang Filipino was born. Those were heady, breathtaking days, a time for new beginnings, a period for conceptualizing the future of Philippine theater via the CCP. I must thank many people who volunteered their time and talent to organize the company. Foremost among them are Jose Claro Tesoro, Bienvenido Noriega, Paul Dumol, Dennis Faustino, Badong Bernal, Chay Bautista Page, Jojo Casim, Mon Puno, Madeline Nicolas, Mario O'Hara, Lalin Samson, Edgar Alegre, Frank Rivera, Cherry Bong Edrelin, and many, many more. Our first production was Dalagang Bukid, which featured Noemi Manican Gomez. With her exceptionally fine nightingale voice, she soared us to success. They should seriously consider giving her the National Artist Award for propagating the Tagalog zarzuela, participating in many subsequent productions. During that epoch, she was literally heir or heiress to Atang de la Rama, a zarzuela queen. I was artistic director for 16 years. I left 20 years ago due to petty politics. I have never looked back. But today, so many wonderful memories are gushing from my heart and mind. I thank Badong Bernal, God rest his soul, for all the costumes and sets that he enthusiastically designed for our theater seasons. When I was farming out design assignments due to Badong's particularly hectic schedule with Ballet Philippines, I was told by Manny Diaz that Badong felt slighted. I had to withdraw invitations to designers and immediately offered him the forthcoming production. Badong wanted to design dramas. It stimulated his poetic sensibilities. I guess he was tired of doing so many tutus and leotards that he always relished discussing concepts with us and working out or translating metaphors into concrete sets. He was a real creative partner. Thank you, Badong. Also a big thank you to Nick Tiongson, who insisted that we revive old theater forms like the zarzuela and the comedia, or moro-moro. He was the impetus that brought back our perspective for Filipino thespic tradition. Thank you to Bing Rojas, Ren Garcia, and Tony Boycowanco for the support. During my stint as artistic director, Tanghalan went international, touring Canada, Japan, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and Paris, France. Our first tour was Canada, courtesy of Dr. June de Villa, who brought us to perform Paglipas ng Dilim in Toronto, Calgary, Montreal, and Halifax. He used his personal money to subsidize and sponsor our tour. My immense gratitude goes to Yuki Hata of the Japan Foundation for inviting El Filibusterismo to tour 7 cities in Japan. The following year, she asked us back. This time, we toured Noli and Fili, both musicals composed by Mr. Cipriano Ryan Cayabyab. I hear he's now a national artist. Thank you to the Bunkamura Foundation, particularly Uzuhiko Tanaka and his assistant Hayashi-san, for inviting me to direct Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet in Tokyo. Badong designed gorgeous sets and costumes. It was an experience of a lifetime getting to work with a completely Japanese cast and production crew. Thank you to Shoko Matsumoto for her splendid work as light designer. She eventually lived in Manila and worked on many productions, sharing her expertise in light design. In 1994, spearheaded by Ambassador Olivier Gossot, we were invited to perform in Paris at the Théâtre du Rond-Point, the theater of Jean-Louis Barrault and the Venerable Madeleine Renaud. We brought two productions, a comedia, Orosman at Safira, by Francisco Balagtas, brilliantly directed by Jonas Sebastian, and a contemporary play, Kalansiao, written by René Villanueva and directed by a guest French director, Robert Cantarella. This was part of the Fête Philippine in celebration of the discovery by a team of professional French sea explorers discovering a whole sunken galleon in the ocean, complete with its loot of gold and Chinese merchandise, all to be exhibited for the first time in Paris. It was an opportunity for the company to showcase Philippine cultural heritage. Thank you, Tess Rances, for coordinating the whole project. And now back to the future. Recently, an actor of ours who started his career with Tanghalan won the Volpi Cup at the recently concluded Venice Film Festival. John Arcilla won the Best Actor Award for his movie On the Job, directed by Eric Mati. In his speech, he acknowledged me as his mentor. Thank you, John, for validating my work in training you to be an actor. You don't know what a huge victory it is for you. I told him that the award elevated him to the pantheon of cinematic gods like Marcello Mastroianni, Toshiro Mifune, Burt Lancaster, Alec Guinness, and Sean Penn. And John quickly added, feeling guapo, Brad Pitt. So I quipped back, now they have to make you artistic director of Tanghalang Filipino. Oh boy, John gulped, dithered, and stammered, and coughed. He hyperventilated. Seriously, he was worse than Colin Firth in the King's Speech. Nabulol ng katakot-takot. After much protest, I told him, chill out, John. Can't you take a joke? You think Nanding will step down in your favor? You only have my thoughtful wishes. Nanding has the backing of Don Antonio Cojuangco. Talo ka na dyan, Lodi. Apparently, training actors has been my special achievement in Tanghalan. It hasn't been easy, truth to tell, for actors are a needy lot, and they want constant reassurance all the time, soliciting praise. You know, ego massage. I did nothing of that. Kuripot sa puri, bigay na bigay sa pagpupuna. But the pintas always came with alternative choices, alternative suggestions. I made sure I provoked them to think clearly about their choices and what they had, and that they had choices, to strategize the shape and form of the drama, to know exactly where the climax should occur. But that's talking shop. I don't think the general public will be much interested. So back to memories, reminiscences, and champagne wishes. Thank you to the many writers and directors and choreographers and composers who contributed to the artistic wealth of the company. Thank you to the voice teachers, especially Andrea Veneracion, movement trainers, speech therapists, and literature and philosophy teachers who gave themselves wholeheartedly despite meager honoraria. Thank you to the choreographers, Edna Vida, Agnes Roxin, Tony Fabella, and fellow awardee Nonoy Froilan, who should be artistic of Ballet Philippines, but alas, they now have a social climber as chair who has opted for an unknown Russian. Let me take a moment to remember those who have passed ahead. Oni de Leon died 10 years ago in his early 50s. Oni was special. He had a photographic memory that enabled him to remember kilometric lines, word perfect. He was a genuine asset to the company, especially when we adopted the rotation of plays within the week of performances. He easily went from one play to another, smoothly changing from principal actor to support and back. Versatile was the operative word. He was also the company's official translator of numerous scripts, and a damned good translator he was. He was a real asset that we all treasure in memory and in prayer. Mario O'Hara died a few years back. He is much missed. We go a long way back during our days in PETA at the Fort Santiago. Mario helped shape the Actors Company by allowing himself to be cast with them and treating everybody with respect as peers, not as apprentices. When I directed Julio Cesar, I cast him as Brutus, with John Arcilla, Totoy na Totoy pa nun, as Julio Cesar. Everyone learned a lot from Mario by sheer example and dedication. Mila Estedilla was our costume mistress from the very start. She was our super wardrobe manager who harnessed costureras to deliver on time, worked under Badong like a magic trumpo, purchasing materials in Divisoria, farming out tasks to neighbors, and getting the job done efficiently and with little fuss. Mila also managed the costume room like it was the New York Public Library. Everything, including props, neatly categorized and stacked in order. It was like she came from a Harry Potter movie to relieve us of stress and worry. She went on to become a barangay kapitana in her neighborhood in Tayuman, which I suspect stressed her out to no end. Sadly, she died of cancer. I want to thank the actors who shared their talent with the company. I can't mention all of you, but many have received awards and have elevated the profession with your discipline and taste. A few have already become legend in the industry, like Charmaine and Noni Buencamino. One has been called the Queen of Indie Films, Irma Adlawan, who, truth to tell, is an incredibly fine stage actress, but who is forced to accept contrabida roles to earn a living. Another fine actress is Sherry Lara Alingod, who has won awards in the movies for being a contrabida, like in Crying Ladies. The others are Gary Lim, Alan Paule, Alan Bautista, Herbie Go, Olga Natividad, George De Jesus, and Joey Paras, whom I texted to ask if he had any awards. He instantly sent me pages from Wikipedia, so please Google his name instead. If he had his way, Ricky Davao would easily have dedicated his life to the stage, a natural on the boards with a great voice. But coming from a showbiz family, he is constrained to eke out a living by doing soaps and now directing them. Thank you to Lou Veloso and to Rene Requiestas, both comic geniuses. All of you have done your part, and kudos to you all. I share this award with you. The spine of any successful theater company, aside from the actors, is the playwright or dramatist. I have always believed that the script is nothing unless performed. Thank you to Nick Joaquin for choosing us to premiere his last play, Pinoy Agonistes, and granting us permission numerous times to stage your classic, Portrait of the Artist as Filipino. You were one generous gentleman of the old school. Thank you to Bian Lumbera for writing the libretto of Noli Me Tangere and translating for me Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, and King Lear, and providing us with a new translation of Nick's portrait. Let me randomly recall a few authors who wrote for the company: Tony Perez, Paul Dumol, Malu Jacob, Jose Butch Dalisay, Wilfrido Maria Guerrero, Bienvenido Noriega, Rene Villanueva, Dennis Marasigan, Jovi Miroy, Orlando Nadres, Frank Rivera, George De Jesus, sending you bouquets of gratitude for your contribution and collaboration with the company. Thank you, Chris Millado, for inviting me back to the CCP to direct at your new black box. Is it called Sogo Theater? We are restaging the play of Tony Perez, Hoy Boyet, collaged with a play by Calderon de la Barca, Ang Dakilang Teatro ng Daigdig, translated by George De Jesus. Two verse plays that provoke questions about ourselves, our identity, and our faith today. I hope to see you in November. I mentioned in passing the leaders of PETA, CB Garucho, Maribel Lagarda, Brenda Fajardo, for their continued support. Thank you, Cecile Guidote, for making us all think outside the box. I hesitate to elaborate on you, knowing so many people in this institution become hostile at the mere mention of your name. But your contribution to Philippine theater is rock solid and incontestable. Try to be less eccentric. People will warm up to you. I will end this panegyric for the Philippine theater by singling out two names, Tony Perez and Paul Dumol. We have been comrades in arms since our high school days at the Ateneo. Both of you have trusted me to premiere your plays. Your output has been a harvest of thought-provoking dramas destined as classics of Philippine dramatic literature. I greet you with the warmest affection and gratitude. Paul Dumol emailed me that he could not come tonight because of a seminar he has to attend. But in congratulating me, he added that he hopes, quote, that we can have a last collaboration before body and soul fall asunder, unquote. Well, Paul, we are now fossils to the new generation. Let us keep hoping God gives us the grace and opportunity to do theater again, despite the very disconcerting reality that audience for serious theater has dwindled to a pitiable number. We're also in the pre-departure area of our life. Maria COVID is still around, causing havoc among vaxxers and anti-vaxxers. The CCP is closing shop for 3 to 5 years, and there's a new circus in town, and it promises to be no less than a Cirque du Soleil. Friends, fellow artists, fellow awardees, I am delighted to accept this award from the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Maraming salamat po.
Si Raul Morales Sunico ay isang mahusay na concert pianist, guro, administrador, at manggagawang pangkultura. Isinilang siya noong 1948 sa Santa Cruz, Maynila.
So I finished my Bachelor of Music at UP, and then I went on to math, which was the career that I really envisioned for math and statistics. And I started to work in a bank after that and taught mathematics also at UP. However, about a couple of years after that, I became the substitute pianist for Malacanang for President Marcos's birthday. And Mrs. Marcos heard me for the first time, and to cut the long story short, she offered me the scholarship. So I went to Juilliard School in New York, where I auditioned and was accepted. And that's how I decided to pursue my musical career instead.
Ilan sa mga postgraduate course niya sa ibang bansa ay ang Master in Music sa Juilliard School sa New York at Doctor of Philosophy in Piano Performance sa University of New York. Aktibo niyang isinulong ang pag-aaral at pagsasanay ng mga susunod na profesional sa musika sa pamamagitan ng pagtuturo at pangangasiwa sa mga paaralan at kolehiyong pangmusika. Naging dekano siya ng UST Conservatory of Music mula 2002 hanggang 2016 at dekano ng St. Paul University College of Music and Performing Arts nitong 2020. Bilang Pangulo ng Sentrong Pangkultura ng Pilipinas mula 2010 hanggang 2017, ay itinaguyod ni Sunico ang pag-unlad ng mga programang pangsining. Kasinlawak ng ginawa niyang pagkukonsyerto sa buong mundo, ang kahanga-hanga niyang repertoryo na tinutugtog niya nang walang tinitig ng kopya.
Normally kasi pag nag-recite ka lang ng solo, minememorize mo lahat ng program mo. I mean, it's not unusual for one to memorize the whole solo recital. But I think what happened was that alam ko kasi since I was young na I could memorize easily.
Nakapagtakda siya ng mataas na pamantayan para sa nakababatang henerasyon ng mga pianista. Halimbawa nito ang pagtugtog niya ng 4 na piano concerto ni Sergei Rachmaninoff sa loob ng iisang gabi noong Setyembre 14, 2003 sa Sentrong Pangkultura ng Pilipinas.
So then I figured out, malakas naman ang memory ko, let me try to pursue it further. Kaya ngayon nag-4 Rachmaninoff concertos ako. Actually, I knew I could do it. Sabi ko, let me try. Kasi if you play just 1 concerto, that's regular. 2 concertos, medyo okay. Pero 4, nobody had done it in the whole world. Ako pa lang ang nagkagawa nun eh. No? Kasi yung concentration for you to be able to find out kung ano yung susunod na nota, ano yung susunod na phrase, ganun. And especially with the orchestra, you have to know when to come in, you know, and how to be together. So that's where the challenge was.
Tumulong siya sa pagpapaunlad ng edukasyong pangmusika sa Pilipinas sa pamamagitan ng kanyang serye ng mga aklat at textbook. Pinayabong niya ang repertoryo ng piano sa Pilipinas sa pamamagitan ng kanyang areglo at pagsasaplakan ng mga awiting bayan at kundimang Filipino.
Yung first Filipino recording ko, this was a fundraising for the Manila Metropolitan Theater, no, dati. So, naisip nila, well, through Mrs. Chingay Lagdameo, the deputy director noon, to have a CD recording of mine na parang fundraising for the Met. So she gave me a copy of a CD where a pianist was playing Beatles songs, pero each Beatles song was parang in the flavor of a classical composer. So inisip ko, probably I can do that for Filipino songs.
Sa mahabang panahon na patuloy na paghahasa ng kanyang sining, naipamalas ni Sunico kung paano maaaring maging isang mahusay na concert pianist ang isang Filipino na kayang makipagsabayan sa iba pang mahuhusay sa mundo.
In order to be successful in your career, first of all, you have to make sure that you have to aspire for the highest level of excellence for artistry. Okay, it's not enough to play the notes. You have to know how to play the notes also, how to make them beautiful. And there are so many details in trying to perfect or how to improve your art. Okay, so always strive for, and sabi nga nila, always strive for perfection, which you will never attain. But you always strive for the nearest that you can actually go for perfection. Ang dapat i-shed natin yung ating usual Filipino mentality na bahala na, yung pwede na yan, that's something that we should try to transcend.
para sa kanyang mga ginampanan bilang musikero, guro, administrador, manggagawang pangkultura, upang makapag-ambag sa pagpapalaganap ng musika sa Pilipinas at sa pagbuo ng isang modernong pagkakakilanlang kultural na Filipino.
Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Raul M. Sunico ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa musika. Ang kanyang kinatawan, si Eugene De Los Santos, PPO Orchestra Director.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Sunico once said in an interview that the discipline of classical music can be applied to life itself. Classical music emphasizes in the pursuit of artistic excellence and entails many hours of practice. This allows oneself to immerse in the music's emotional and intellectual message in order to express it according to the composer's intentions. In life, this translates into the discipline of hard work, the pursuit of excellence in one's chosen field, and the moral strength or courage to overcome the many frustrations that lie in the path of this goal. Dr. Sunico is honored to receive this recognition. This award pushes him further to continue his advocacy to champion Philippine music through preservation and early education for the perusal of future generations. Maraming salamat po.
Si Maria Cristina Valera Turalba ay isa sa mga unang babaeng arkitekto sa Pilipinas. Ipinanganak siya sa Bangged, Abra noong ika-31 ng Oktubre, 1943. Natuto siya tungkol sa arkitektura noong siya ay dalagita pa lamang. Naging inspirasyon ni Turalba ang amaing arkitekto na si Ben C. Sullivan.
Even before I even graduated from college, I was already exposed to architecture, engineering, building, practices by my engineer father and architect uncle.
Nag-aral at nagtapos ng batsilyer sa arkitektura si Turalba sa Universidad ng Pilipinas noong 1965.
In the beginning, if you look back, when my mom became an architect, she was one of the few women architects. At the time, it was a male-dominated profession. And my mom being so small, parang ang lakas ng personality, naging architect in a male-dominated profession at the time.
Nag-apprentice siya sa ilalim ng mga national artists for architecture na sina Leandro Locsin at Ildefonso Santos Jr. Sa UP niya nakilala ang asawang si Antonio A. Turalba, na bukod sa pagiging arkitekto ay isa ring civil engineer. Naging katuwang niya ang asawa sa pagtatag ng Turalba and Associates. Kalaunan, ito ay naging Active Group of Companies o AGC na umabot na ngayon sa ika-50 anibersaryo. Isa sa mga proyekto ni Turalba sa ilalim ng AGC ang Malarayat Golf and Country Club and Residential Estates sa Batangas. Makikita sa mga istruktura at landscape ng proyektong Malarayat ang kulturang Pilipino. ang disenyong angkop sa kalupaan, ang pag-iingat sa mga puno at sapa, ang paggamit ng mga katutubong materyales, at iba pang mga detalyeng kumuha ng inspirasyon mula sa mga tirahang Pilipino.
They embarked in designing a place not just to be beautiful, but to be really a pleasant and wonderful place to live in. It's like, as the tagline that they both coined, delivering a quality of life that goes beyond shelter. So it's not just a home, but a community, a nice place to stay, a nice place to live.
Sa kanyang karera bilang arkitekto, nagkaroon ng pagkakataong makapaglingkod sa ilang ahensya ng gobyerno si Turalba. Dahil dito, nagkaroon siya ng pagkakataong ikutin ang bansa. Naitanong niya noon sa sarili kung ano ba talaga ang identidad ng arkitekturang Pilipino. Nagkaroon din siya ng pagkakataong palalimin ang kakayahan at kaalaman sa pangangalaga ng mga heritage site ng Pilipinas, tulad ng pangunguna niya sa restorasyon ng Baluarte ng San Diego sa Intramuros, Manila. Noong 1997, nagtulungan si Turalba, ang National Commission for Culture and the Arts at ang United Architects of the Philippines upang ang 1,500 estruktura mula sa 16 na rehiyon na itinuturing na mahahalagang pamanang estruktura at pook pangkultura ay maidokumento.
She had a book on Philippine architecture. So yes, I guess that's her being an academic side and a professor side, where she really wants to preserve the culture of the Philippines in terms of architecture.
Nakapaloob ito sa aklat na Philippine Heritage Architecture before 1521 to the 1970s na nailathala ni Turalba kasama ang mga arkitektong sina Jeronimo Manahan at Maria Jocelyn Mananghaya noong 2005. Lumabas din noong 2005 ang Philippine Heritage Homes, a guidebook, kung saan kasama niyang nagsulat sina Dr. Jaime C. Laya at Martin I. Tinio. Humanga si Turalba sa pamumuhay at arkitektura ng mga ibatan ng isla ng Batanes na naging dahilan ng masinsinan niyang field work sa lugar. Nakalikha siya ng mahahalagang akda tulad ng The Batanes Landscape and Ivatan Archaeological Landscape noong 2004.
So I guess when it came to her, that parang somebody had to, highlight and, hey, wait, what's ours? Or else we might lose it. So that was one of the things that she advocated, I guess, as being a professor in UP, and she embarked in doing that book of heritage homes to try to find an identity to our architecture.
Ipinagkakaloob kay Binibining Cristina V. Turalba ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa arkitektura.
I usually put it here. Yep. Okay? Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay, okay. Okay. Good evening. President Maria Margarita Moran Florendo, the
Board of Trustees, and the officers of the Cultural Center of the Philippines, ladies and gentlemen. I am both thankful and humbled to the Cultural Center of the Philippines bestowed me in this prestigious honor following my great passion of architecture. More specifically, architecture that draws from our history, our culture, our tradition. And this have been reflected in my own professional work, from office and residential buildings to subdivisions to resorts and leisure communities, together with my husband, Tony. Ladies and gentlemen, Philippine architecture has always been a big advocacy. For this, I was involved in the restoration of the Baluarte de San Diego in Intramuros, invited by my dear friend, Dr. Jaime Laya. While Dr. Jaime Laya was serving the Intramuros administration and the National Commission of Culture and the Arts, the NCCA, I discussed with him the possibility of creating an inventory that it was a daring venture, but one that was validated the excellence of a uniquely Philippine architecture. I partnered the NCCA in this project with the United Architects of the Philippines, with many of my good friends and college classmates. We eventually documented 1,500 structures in 16 regions, which are important heritage structures and cultural sites. The UAP created the Sentro ng Arkitekturang Filipino and pointed to me as its executive director in the year 2000 to 2006. Though the Centro, I continued to work with heritage enthusiastic architects like Augusto Villon, Paulo Alcazaren, Joven Ignacio, and Rene Luis Mata. Our reach led to books on Philippine heritage architecture. The books documented urban and provincial homes that were most built in the 19th and 20th century. These heritage digital books have been also sponsored in the publication of 2 NCCA UAP sponsored documentation of the Philippine heritage structures comprising of 12 volumes. In my heritage, I became acquainted with Batanes, the Ivatans and their life and architecture. This led to a compendium, the Batanes Landscape and Ivatan Archaeology Landscape as a a 6-volume nomination dossier done in 2004 for UNESCO, which successfully identified Batanes as an heritage site. For 50 years, I was not only an architect and an environmental planner, I also was continuously being a professor in the University of the Philippines, an architect, collector, and a businesswoman, and of course, a wife and a mother to, what do I say, my 4 wonderful children. Through it all, I experienced much personal and professional satisfaction. This recognition by the Cultural Center makes me realize how blessed I have to practice what I learned to help improve the lives of many and to preserve the future of the legacies of our own Philippine architecture, from which we will very much learn to be proud of. So, thank you and maraming salamat po at napakaganda ng Pilipinas. Thank you.
Si Luis E. Yee Jr., na mas kilala sa pangalang Jun Yee, ay isa sa pinakaunang installation artists sa Pilipinas. Ipinanganak si Jun Yee noong 1942 sa Kabadbaran, Agusan del Norte sa isang Chinong ama at Bisayang ina. Ang gusto ng mga magulang niya ay maging isa siyang negosyante, pero ang gusto niya ay maging isang artist.
So ang father ko, sabi niya, you work for me for 1 year. If after 1 year ayaw mo pa rin mag-aral ng business, bahala ka na sa buhay mo. Hindi kita hindi kita tutulungan kahit 5 centimos. 10 months pa lang hindi ko na kaya lumayas. Nakakita ko ng janitor na kailangan ng isang punerarya. So natanggap naman akong janitor, so doon ako nagtrabaho sa punerarya.
Mula sa Cebu, nagtungo sa Maynila si Jun Yee. Namuhay siya ng simple. Naging scholar siya ng 3 taon, saka nag-working student hanggang makatapos ng kursong Fine Arts sa University of the Philippines sa Diliman. Ang pambansang alagad ng sining para sa eskultura na si Napoleon Abueva ang naging mentor at ama ni Jun Yee noong mga panahong iyon.
It was good years for me. 3 years I was there. And I learned more sa studio niya, working with him, than in college sa Fine Arts.
Kahit eskultura ang naging matatag na basihan ng kanyang kaalaman, mas naging mahalaga kay Jun Yee ang imahinasyon at ang katutubong proseso sa paglikha.
The burning question during my time is, ano ba ang Philippine arts? So lahat ng mga kasamahan ko, Western talaga ang ginagawa. But it's not ours. So I was telling myself, it's not ours. Ano ba? Gusto kong ma-express ang sarili ko na galing sa pagka-Filipino ko. Or at least man lang pagka-Asyano.
Mahalaga kay Jun Yee ang paggamit ng mga katutubong materyales na madaling makuha kung saan man ang lokasyon ng kanyang installation art. Ang Balag, ang kauna-unahang open-air one-man show ni Jun Yee. Nilikha niya ito sa loob ng UP campus gamit ang pinulot na naputol na mga kawayan sa paligid ng university noong 1970.
So yung ginawa ko sa Balag ay ang ang format ko doon or philosophy ko doon ay yung bayanihan concept ng Filipino. Nag-hunt kami ng mga pagkain, lata, adilata, tuyo, talong, everything. Tapos may kantahan sa baba. Tapos we encourage the students to hang whatever they want to hang. Mostly ang sinasabi nila mga poetry or batikos kay Marcos.
Sa solo show niyang Wood Things noong 1980, naroon ang pinagbugkos-bugkos na mga dahon ng saging na ginapos ng tangkay at tinusukan ng tuyong supot ng kapok na mistulang mga insektong nakatutusok at gumagapang.
Because my purpose ng wood thing na yon, nang ginawa ko sa CCP Small Gallery, that was the very first indoor installation sa history ng art sa Pilipinas. So nang ginawa ko yon, ang purpose ko is to create an alien environment.
Ang Angod, A Forest Once noong 2007, ay nilikha sa harapan ng CCP para sa Earth Day. Mahigit 10,000 angod na may taling pula ang nilatag ni Junyi sa harap ng CCP.
Parang kuwan siya, parang sementeryo. It represent all those trees na pinutol illegally.
Isa pang makabuluhang likha ni Junyi ay ang Open Doors Monument na itinayo niya sa Israel.
And it is very significant because the Open Door Monument was a testament of what we did by siguro alam niyo yun, Emmanuel Quezon, to open our doors to accept refugees from Germany during Hitler's madness. So yun ang ginawa ko.
Ang isa sa pinakahuling nilikha ni Junyi ay ang quarantine noong 2020.
Yeah, that was very meaningful because the quarantine installation in front of Vargas Museum, yung father ko kasi na Chinese, dumating sa Pilipinas, he was 18 years old. That was 1918. At hindi ko makalimutan because 1918 was the Spanish flu years. So natatakot ako. Sabi ko, ay gagawa ko ng installation. That's the very first artwork done sa country tungkol sa COVID or tungkol sa pandemic.
Isinasabuhay ni Junyi kung paano ang maging tunay na alagad ng sining.
Never think na hanap buhay ang art making, It's a calling. It's something you cannot, part with yourself.
Para sa paglikha niya ng sining na sumasalungat sa kalakalang mapang-api sa taong bayan. Ngunit puno naman ng pag-asa dahil nagsusulong sa kapakanan ng bayan at kalikasan.
Ipinagkakaloob kay Ginoong Luis Junyi E. Yi Jr. ang 2020 Gawad CCP para sa sining biswal na kinakatawan ni Binibining Maria Rosario Estrada.
Isa po muling masigabong na palakpakan para kina Ginoong Felix G. Padilla Jr., Ginoong Raul M. Sunico, Binibining Cristina V. Torralba, at Ginoong Luis E. Yi Jr. Mainit na pagbati po sa inyong lahat.
Nasa dulo na po na tayo ng ating selebrasyon ngayong gabi at sa puntong ito ay nais ko pong magpasalamat sa inyong lahat sa pagbigay ng panahon upang makiisa sa okasyong ito.
Punong-puno ng inspirasyon at kasiyahan ng ating programa at mga pagtatanghal. Kaya't kahit na huli ang formal na pagkakaloob ng pagkilala ay sulit ang panahon na ibinuhos upang mabuo ang selebrasyon ngayong gabi.
Salamat po sa lahat na naging bahagi ng programang ito at muli ang aming taus-pusong pagbati sa lahat ng naparangalan.
Sa amin po ang karangalan na maging tagapagdaloy ng programa para sa gabing ito. Kaya't maraming salamat po. Ako po si Arman Ferrer.
At ako naman po si Sheila Valderrama Martinez.
Manatili po tayo para sa panghuling pagtatanghal, isang napaka-espesyal na pabaon mula sa Philippine Madrigal Singers at Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra sa pangunguna ni Maestro Hermie Ranera.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Mga kababayan, ang ating mga Gawad CCP awardees para sa sining sa taong 2020. Luwalhati Bautista para sa panitikan na kinakatawan ni Mr. Dante Bautista. Kenneth Cobonpue para sa disenyong pangkasangkapan. Clodoaldo Doy A. Del Mundo Jr. para sa pelikula at sining broadcast. Antonio Fabella para sa sayaw na kinakatawan ni Binibining Mika Fabella. Rafael Catalino Nonoy Froilan para sa sayaw. Alice Guillermo para sa pananaliksik pangkultura na kinakatawan ni Ginoong Diego Guillermo Almirante. Nestor Horfilia para sa pananaliksik at gawaing pangkultura. Integrated Performing Arts Guild o IPAG para sa pangangalaga ng pamana na kinakatawan ni Ginoong Stephen Patrick Fernandez. Liwayway Magazine para sa pagtataguyod ng kultura na kinakatawan ni Ginoong Johannes L. Chua. Danilo Dolor, Tanging Parangal. Felix Nonon G. Padilla Jr. para sa teatro. Raul M. Sunico para sa musika na kinakatawan ni Ginoong Eugene De Los Santos. Cristina V. Turalba para sa arkitektura. Luis Junyi E. Yi Jr. para sa sining biswal na kinakatawan ni Binibining Maria Rosario Estrada. Salamat po sa pakikiisa sa pagkilala sa 14 na awardees ng 2020 Gawad CCP para sa sining. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat.